out today by State Farm. Protect your car and
Football
home with the here to
sucks.
help life go right. Talk to an agent today at 800 State Farm.
It
Coca-Cola.
sucks.
Share a Coke is back for football season. When you're stocking up for game day, be sure
Like
to
on
grab a
days
Coke
like
and
this,
share it
I
with a
hate my
friend.
children
Share a
that much
Coke
more.
And Go Jackets by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%.
That chili is a
more
little
on car
spicy, by the way.
And by Scana Energy.
Oh, do you have some?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Be careful there. A little spicy.
That made me think of these pretzels are making me thirsty.
Alexander Tharp Fund. Go Jackets. Georgia Tech football is a Learfield IMG College presentation of the Georgia Tech Sports Network.
Put your iPads and phones away. You don't need anything. Kirby sucks. Georgia sucks.
With the fans
Life
College
sucks.
Game Day, live from Sports and Social.
404.
The 680 College staff is live all afternoon, bringing you up-to-the-minute scores and breakdowns of all the biggest action on the biggest college football station in the country, The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM.
404-231-1680. That's the number to get in. College Game Day live from Sports and Social
I'm going to call in.
here on The Fan, 680, 93.7 FM. Home team, Los and Brian Hoyt.
What
we
up?
are here until 7 o'clock.
Whatever.
We will take your comments, your questions, your concerns, as everybody will have something to say. You just heard the end of the Georgia Tech game as Tech falls on the road up in Durham this afternoon as they played a better second half than they did first half, but they fall in Durham to the Duke Blue Devils. Earlier in the day, the Georgia Bulldogs, they fall at home in Athens to the South Carolina Gamecocks, 20-17. 404-231-1680.
Can we make this like a congressional investigation? Because rightfully so, as the senior member, I should go first. But I'm going to defer to Brian Hoyt.
Yeah, give
I'm
him
going
the
to defer
space.
my time because this man is a lot more upset than I am, and I think he needs the floor first.
Hoyt, the floor is yours.
Football sucks. Atlanta sucks. The city sucks. I hate everyone and everything. And you know which altar I pray at, home team. And I'm ready to say that man
The altar of
sucks
Satan.
right now. I'm about to say Kirby Smart sucks. I mean, what the hell? The hell? Mark Richt came back and coached his team for a game.
I tweeted out earlier today, I believe Kirby Smart had his first Mark Richt moments, and people will talk about the championship games
It was.
or the college football playoff championship. But I'm talking about having the tough loss in the SEC before Week 10 and potentially the entire season being derailed. Now, a lot of football left to be played, a lot to be hashed out
No, there's not.
in the SEC, but this is a tough one, being that the Dogs, coming off of a huge win, now have the biggest loss, I think, in the Kirby Smart era.
Yes, that is absolutely true. This is the first time during the Kirby Smart era since it really hit the stride it did in 2018, 2017, where you sat back and you said, I lost to a team that I am considerably better than, and let's go through it. You needed 4 turnovers. You needed a blocked field goal. You needed a missed field goal at the end. You needed a 3rd and 19 roughing the passer call, followed by a 3rd and 15. You gave up some more yards on that play in order to give up first down. All of these things had to come together for you to lose by 3 in double overtime at home, and that'll just tell you how much better of a team than you are in South Carolina, but a loss is a loss.
And that's all we're sitting there. Like, I'm sitting there watching the game, and all I'm thinking is, I don't care about points anymore. Just win this damn game. Find a way to win this game. Good teams find a way to win this game. You have no margin for error at this point. And Kirby, up until that 17, 18, and 19, he had not lost an SEC East game since his 2016 Florida game. He had not lost an SEC East game. And this is where we sit. And it's just like the old years right now, where you better win out if you want everything in front of you.
By the way, this really does not change a thing.
It
Not
changes-
really.
It
Nothing.
changes. No, that's
No.
wrong. It changes everything.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. Because you realize what I realize, I'm going to start by saying that you and I both understand the same thing, so I can create the argument from there.
I hate you.
When you play, for instance, Alabama, let's say they reach there, or LSU, either one, reaches Atlanta undefeated and you play them undefeated, do you think that if you lose that game, you're getting in?
No.
Because I don't. Because this is made for television, and I just watched that matchup, and this is how it went. does not matter. You still are in the same boat of, I got to win my games, and I got to win in Atlanta. It changes nothing. In fact, when the committee goes back to it, they're going to go, man, they played really poorly, and they lost by 3 in double overtime.
I agree with you 100% on that standpoint. Here's where it changes everything. You just took one loss in the SEC East. You win in Jacksonville, you're now tied with Florida at this point, not knowing what's going to happen in Baton Rouge tonight.
You assume if they lose tonight?
Fine,
Okay.
It's an even table. Let's say they pull off the upset. You could lose at Auburn and not even play in that big game in the Bend.
Absolutely.
And
It's a possibility.
And that's why it changes everything, because you have no mistakes in front of you. You have no wiggle room in front of you. You have to win out. And by the way, when I say win out, remember that game we all circled at Texas A&M at home? That's a must-win. That game the week before in Jordan-Hare, that's a must-win. That game down in Jacksonville that we all assumed was going to be a win, that's a must-win. Every single game, if you want what you thought was in front of you, every single game from here on out, there is no more mess-ups like we saw today.
Are there questions about Kirby Smart? Are there questions about the coaching staff? Was it too conservative? Jake Fromm and the Dogs offense did not come out with a lot of pizzazz. They looked like they were a little lethargic is the word I would use. They found themselves turning the ball over in a pick six right before the end of the first half, which I thought completely changed the game.
Yep.
You had a blocked field goal going into the half, which completely changed the game. And so you have a situation where there was so much wrong. However, you still had a chance with your final offensive possession of the game to get out of there with a field goal attempt from Rodrigo Blankenship, who's one of the best kickers in the nation, except there was an illegal shift, a 5-yard penalty, and you're taking out a field goal range to go into double overtime.
All right, so here's where I'm being very honest about things. Kirby Smart might be current-day Mac Brown. And I'm talking like Mac Brown from like 1998 to about 2009, where it's national championship, appearance in national championship, playing in big games and everything else. But Mac Brown had to recruit overwhelming talent because in tight situations, he got beat by better coaches. Now, Will Muschamp screwed it up today too.
Yeah,
He totally screwed up the scenario at the end of the ball game, having to kick the field goal, trying to kick a 60-yarder essentially with a kicker who was not going to be able to get it there. That's a screw-up. That's a mess-up.
He took a timeout with 1:26 going down the field and gave Georgia a chance the other way.
The fun part about all of that is then Kirby Smart returned the favor to him. When you take a timeout with 13 seconds left, and I know there's a line there on ESPN, but basically the line is, okay, here's 55 yards. He's hit it from here in the past. They knew that they needed 5 more yards. Okay, I get that. But just the way they messed up that sequence so badly to where running the clock right down to the last second, putting yourself in a situation where you have an illegal procedure because you have 2 guys moving at the same time without being set. So many of those things end up adding up to where you didn't even get an opportunity to let an All-American kicker attempt a long field goal.
And that's my problem. Yes, he had a miss. Yes, he had a blocked field goal during the game. You didn't even give him an opportunity.
That's what I'm talking about.
Whatever Rodrigo does, you did not even give the man an opportunity. Whether you wanted to kick it with 8 seconds left on the clock or you wanted to try to go for it one more time, but you know things can happen. When you line up one more time, you know things can happen.
And there is nothing wrong with your best players not executing and you not getting the result. It is a long field goal. 55 yards is not a gimme.
Give him a chance.
But if he misses it, there's no harm, no foul. You just played to get to that point, to get to the field goal. The problem is you did not even get the chance to attempt it. So we'll get to that. We'll get to the turnovers. We'll get to the play calling. We'll get to the conservative nature that I think Georgia displayed time after time.
Oh, God.
And then we have to give
5.
some credit of the South Carolina defense
No.
who found a way
No.
to turn the Bulldogs over 4 times and get themselves a defensive score. That coming up. Hoyt,
What?
Los,
What?
home team.
Screw it.
We are live from Sports and Social here on 680 College Game Day, live here on The Fan, 680, 93.7 FM. All right, got to get us on track.
Keith, are the phone lines open? Are the phone lines open?
Hey, man, I'm going to assist your help. It's this disgusting fat body that used to work at 92.9 that keeps trolling me, but now he's starting to bother me. He used to be one of their sound guys, and he used to do a show late at night. But he was a big fat guy. He was on that Tub of Goose show when you were so fat you had to lose weight. He lost weight, but he keeps jumping on my Twitter line. I don't want to block
Is he the
him.
Clemson guy?
He's a Tennessee guy.
What? No,
Yeah.
no.
He got on the Fat People show because he said he never took his shirt off. He never took a picture with his family because he always felt uncomfortable being fat. So I don't want to fat shame him, but he's starting to piss me off because
What
I'm
is
not
his
talking
name
to
on?
him.
What is his name on Twitter?
Let me find it. I just tagged you. I said, Hoyt, what do you want me to do with this guy?
Okay. So I already put this guy in his place.
We are still streaming, by the way.
Oh,
Not
that's
that,
fine.
not
No
that anybody
question.
cares. But yeah.
I'm being trolled by a man who I don't know and I don't like.
I already put this guy in his place one time, home team.
That's him.
So-
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
You do your thing. No, you say yours, and then I'll share mine because I did the same thing too.
So he's working for 92, crapping all over 680 over and over
He
and
doesn't
over.
even work
and
there
over.
anymore. He got fired.
Nope. And he keeps crapping. So I'm like, you don't want to go here. And he keeps crapping. And I go, if we're so bad, and I took a picture of Scotty's desk with his resume on Scotty's desk.
Let me get that picture.
And I go, sir, if we're so bad, why is your resume on my boss's desk right now?
It's like if
And
we're
he
so terrible.
never has said a word to me ever since.
Now, here was the other one. Chuck had made some point about Matt Ryan. He decided to go after Chuck, but not to actually put Chuck and link him on Twitter. He didn't tag him on it. I basically, because I had heard like he was having all these issues over there, he was pissed off at their management, blah, 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 blah. And I go, it was real simple. It was just a tweet, and I just go, the sooner you discover that it's all of us versus management, not you versus me, I was like, you're going to be so much better off. I'm not the one keeping you from a raise or a promotion. And I'm not. I'm not that guy. Your management and ownership are. I was like, so why are you making it a business to go and try and to hack on another talent?
This is like the third time. At first I was trying to ignore him, but now he's jumping on me. Like I don't want to fight with the fat jokes or fight with clips from the fat TV show that you couldn't even win the fat show.
No.
God.
It's very simple. It's like listen.
Well, I'm fat, so I won't be like a fat shaming.
So you can respond to him by saying, hey, I'm doing a show right now. I'll get back to you in a little bit.
Yeah, that always works.
Sorry, I'm getting paid.
Wiley?
I'm getting paid to work on the radio right now. If you don't mind.
Can you turn
Wiley?
up? Can you turn up Keith for me? The local. Wait, not the local. The return.
What do you want to talk about?
Return.
Yeah.
James got it.
Just a few knew about her superpowers in a matter of seconds.
Have you seen the lighting for our stream?
No.
What it's coming across as? I put it as witness protection. Here, let me show you. Because it's because they got the band lighting. So the band lighting.
I was gonna go ask if we could maybe do something about that, but I don't think there's anything to do.
Let's see how. Can you see? Have you seen it?
Hello.
A little dark. Darkness. Darkness.
So then what I did was I touched her body in a very unfamiliar place.
Especially home team over there.
What are you trying to say?
No, I didn't mean actually. It's not because of the color of his skin.
Look,
Jesus,
But yeah, you're
Derek.
over in the light. But yeah,
Jesus,
you can
Derek.
see. We can
you're
see
Derek
you a little
Francis.
bit.
These teams, these teams got me about to move. I'm like, dude, I know.
ASW Distillery, delicious whiskey distilled by dogs. King here and all through Chucktober. Oh, it's a month full of scares and surprises. Well, choosing where to buy your next vehicle shouldn't be a scare or a surprise. That's why I gladly
All right.
refer all my friends and family to Jim Ellis.
We got 2 hours of, oh my God.
Oh my goodness. For example, right now at Jim Ellis Buick GMC, you can save up to $8,000 off MSRP on all 2019 Buick Encore Preferred models. Take Encore stock number EC9090. It's MSRP $26,090. After rebates and the Jim Ellis Buick GMC discount, you're paying just $17,995. You add the TAVT and the state fees, and you are driving off the lot in your brand new 2019 Buick Encore Preferred model. Buying your next vehicle doesn't have to be a frightful experience, especially when you can shop, buy, and trade your way with the Ellis family at Jim Ellis Buick GMC. For more details, it's JimEllisBuickGMC.com or stop by Peachtree Industrial just inside the perimeter on Highway 20 in Buford. Jim Ellis Buick GMC, we are professional grade. Matt Stinchcomb here for Engineered Solutions of Georgia, proud partner of the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, Westy went to Boise State.
Wow.
Man,
That's a long flight.
Wesley takes the coolest trips. Like he is Real
I
life
think they only have
Anthony
one
Bourdain.
airport. There's something about going up there. Wow. You know what? Better go now before it's all snowed in and you can't really see a football game.
Yeah. Just going to get up in the middle of this broadcast and be like, I'm going for a beer.
So Kirby on the pregame show, he goes, I hope we're ready because they didn't look ready all week. And he said that before the game.
Man, that tells you everything. Well, you'll have that attention the rest of the year.
You bet.
And the thing is, you're going to get Kentucky. You're going to do what you're going to do. But it now makes everything over the next couple weeks really interesting.
Hey guys, it's Matt Ryan. If you're a school teacher and you could use an extra $500, attorney Ken needs.
We should be coming in here every day with shit up our ass.
For every game this season, I'm donating to 2 teachers $500 each. To register to win, go to attorneykennegitt.com and 2 teachers will win $500 every game.
I think fat women look better on Twitter.
You can read this at **Ken on your mobile phone.
Maybe because it's just a headshot.
**KEN. One call.
No, the headshot is a major factor.
Are you in the market for an auto loan, a boat loan?
But most of the time for me, it's like, man, that was witty. Let me see who did that. And I'm like, I'm glad you're witty.
Yeah, so they get the wit because most heavier girls are witty.
I hope so, or else.
They need some, or they're good at giving.
Again, I'll just say, I had a friend of mine in college.
Birthday present.
Who's like probably 330 pounds. And he came into my dorm room one time. He was drunk as hell. And he goes, Los, let me tell you, I ain't never been lean unless I was funny.
Zone credit like, become one of Georgia's own now at georgiasown.org. The Fans College Game Day.
I feel like
live
Mel.
from Sports and Social.
This city sucks.
This city sucks, man. College action on the college football voice of the South. The Fan. 680 and 93.7 FM.
We should all move somewhere else.
It's all right, man. There's a lot of football to go.
Listen, it's got a half a season worth of football.
It's a lot of football to go. It's College Game Day live from Sports and Social here in the Battery, Atlanta. The voice of Ryan Hoyt.
Who cares?
The voice of Carlos Medina.
You were actually given drama today, which you haven't had for quite a while.
And the voice of me, home team Brandon Leak. We're here until 7 o'clock here on the Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
That was drama? That was drama today?
You just heard the end of the Tech game. Duke beats Georgia Tech 41-23. Tech falling to 1-5. Had a better second half than first half. Can't say that about the Georgia Bulldogs, who end up losing at home in double overtime to the South Carolina Gamecocks, 20-17. My biggest problem is what I just said, Los. The 20 points that South Carolina put up is one thing. The 17 points by the Georgia Bulldogs, that is the most shocking thing to me, that at home, even in a game where you ran for 173 yards, you still weren't able to score enough to make South Carolina nervous, and putting up 17 points in the Kirby Smart era with the offensive line and the running back stable has me scratching my head the most.
10 points because 7 of them came from the offense. They gave away
fair enough
10 points, and yet your offense could not keep pace with that and get to 17 until the final minute and a half of the football game. Now, so much of it, and you alluded to it earlier, home team, when you turn the ball over that many times, which, again, going into the final drive was 3, where you actually come out of the fourth quarter break, the fourth quarter timeout, and the first thing you do is put the ball on the ground on like the 25-yard line. That's a scoring opportunity. Your other turnovers were the same sort of situations. It's just incredibly frustrating. I get that. But then I start to calm down and realize this still is about the same thing. You win out, and you've got to win in Atlanta because they could have gone all the way through the season undefeated, and if they lose that game in Atlanta, they don't go anywhere anyway.
Fromm put up another Fromm game, and he's good for one a year, right?
Yeah, that's been the history.
And then you compound that with a Kirby game, which they've kept them separate from each other. Kirby normally does in the SEC championship.
The confluence has never happened where it happens in the same game where you go, oh my God, my coach did not play this out well.
And that's the worst part is I wanted this bad game for Fromm if he's going to do one a year because he was bad today. He gave 7 points throwing off his back foot, throwing I don't know why he was throwing it. He was missing wide open receivers all day. The receivers he did hit, he wasn't hitting in stride. He was throwing behind them. The back shoulder throw to Cager, it looked like he was throwing to the DB on a back shoulder, or on Landers, excuse me. And Landers may have given up inside position and not worked it outside. And some of it may have had to do with Cager being injured. And that's a problem too. If you only have one go-to guy on this team, and that's Cager for Fromm, and he goes out and you have nobody else, that's a massive issue for this team. I look back at the final drives that Georgia had. You had the 96-yard touchdown. Other than that, you went fumble, interception. You screwed yourself out of getting that last kick in the regulation.
Right.
So that was turnover on downs, interception, missed field goal. Your offense cannot go down that many times and not come away with points.
404-231-1680. A lot of people going to be upset. The question is, where do you go from here? A lot of football. Still have Kentucky next week, a week off. You have to take care of your business in Jacksonville. Still a march to be made towards the SEC championship game. But my biggest thing is, it just seems, again, and maybe it's unfair, but it comes with the territory, the expectations, the paycheck, all the things that are supposed to go along with Kirby Smart. It just seems like in the few games that the Georgia Bulldogs lose, he has a hand in something that causes the loss. And this one, the misunderstanding of what was supposed to be going on at the end of regulation, you could have possibly ended the game in regulation with a Rodrigo Blankenship field goal. And because of uncertainty, confusion, lack of timeout usage, not having the message out, you get a motion penalty, an illegal formation penalty, and don't get the chance to win the game.
And that's the thing. Like, Los and I will tell our interns all the time, you're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
Everyone makes mistakes. Learn from those mistakes and don't make them again. Well, Kirby is on year 4 of this job right now. 16, 17, 18. Year 4 of this job right now. And he's still making the mistakes a head coach should not make in year 4. I accepted those in year 1. I let them go by in year 2. You're still making the same mistakes. I can't have that out of my head coach anymore.
This is where I think college football is so different than the NFL, and it's so different when you have nothing to lose. A guy like, for instance, Coach Boom, Muschamp went into the game. It was house money. They're sitting there ahead at half. They can be aggressive. They can do some things. Hey, we'll go for it on 4th down. We'll try and make some things happen. If I lose, no problem. But in college football, you are a favorite, and you really don't play a whole lot of tight games. So when you suddenly find yourself in them, there's a reason why these guys. You know, one of the guys that always had one of the best records in the SEC was Les Miles. For some reason, he always really did well in one-score games. You know who didn't? Guys like Nick Saban, because they didn't play him a whole lot. Kirby Smart has not been exposed to a lot of these situations, so there is a freak-out factor that does happen when you get down to these moments.
When you're going to play this style of football, though, that Georgia wants to play, where you run the clock, you run the ball, you're physical and everything else, you're going to limit teams' possessions. You're going to play in close games. When you set yourself up offensively like this, these are the kind of games you're going to play in, and you've got to be better. The wide receivers, by the way, for Georgia, this is another issue. You were in man coverage most of the day, and you could not separate the entire day from any of those corners for South Carolina. That's a huge problem. And I know you're asking freshmen like Pickens and Blaylock to separate and figure out their routes, but at some point, we hear about so many 5-stars. You know what? You should be better than the other 3-star across from you.
404-231-1680, the number to get in. This is College Game Day live from Sports and Social here in the Battery, Atlanta. Home team Los and Hoyt. Let's go out to the phones and talk to Wiley. Wiley, thank you for calling us here on College Game Day on the Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
What's going on, guys? All right, here's my problem, is the play calling was terrible. First of all, the one thing that South Carolina can do is they have good interior defensive linemen. All day, every first down, run up the middle. Second down, run up the middle. 3rd and 7, all day, every day. Then we have 95 yards to go with 5 minutes left.
And we hurried up.
We get first down, and we're running the clock down to 5 seconds. We score instead of having 2.5, 3 minutes left at the end of the game where we could maybe get Rodrigo into field goal range. We have 1:48. Then you got a quarterback that can't throw the ball. We stuffed them, but we only had 1:48 to get in field goal range.
But James, besides all of that, you still had a shot to win the game with Hot Rod there if you don't have an illegal procedure. Like, besides everything you just said, you have an opportunity to do that.
And Wiley, thanks for the call. Here's the part, too, though, and it speaks to exactly what he was saying.
I called him James because I know him.
I know. Here's the thing. The only reason they had an illegal procedure call is because they had to hurry because for some reason they with not a running clock, they ran it down to another 1 or 2 second situation, and you didn't have time for the guys to make their change in alignment and snap the football. There's so many things that happened where you just said that is a lack of attention to detail today. And we heard it from Kirby Smart. You talked about it in the pregame. What did Kirby Smart bring up in the pregame?
Kirby Smart said, I hope these boys are ready because they haven't looked ready all week.
Whoa.
And that may be just taking your eyes off the prize or going through the motions because it's not a big game. It's not a top 25 matchup. But it's hard to get high school kids motivated or college kids motivated, 20, 21, 19, whatever age, if they're not into it. We saw it in the Sugar Bowl last year.
Well, you're hearing stories of, it was a 12 o'clock game. We saw Kirby early in the week implore the fans to get out there early. There's stories now of, there were spotty sections, student sections in the building that it didn't obviously have the same fervor that was there for the Notre Dame game. Obviously, it wasn't because it was South Carolina and at noon and not Notre Dame in front of the world. That being said, it just seemed like everything was a little bit off. The way you took care of the football was off. The way you came out to start the game was off. The way you ended the first half was off. And then when the game was on the line towards the end, final drive of regulation, and at the end when you threw a pick in overtime, the way you closed out the game, including the missed field goal to seal it, was off.
I think the part that frustrated me the most, and sorry, I'll get right on back to you. The part that was frustrating me the most is that Hoyt and I have talked about Georgia and their plans are to limit possessions. They're going to take up their time. They're going to run the football. They're going to do things where they shorten the game and they force you to be better. Well, as Georgia's making more mistakes and putting themselves in weirder situations where, hey, we just let Carolina hold on to the ball for 5 minutes. They didn't get any points, but now I'm going to drive it down and take my time, and I'm going to eat up the other 3 minutes of the quarter. Suddenly, I've just eliminated a quarter of play for myself where I can make up a deficit or get myself going again. That was the part that was so frustrating to me with the first down run, second down run, and running it out of read option. Hold up. Who thinks he's going to pull it and take off?
It's not a read option if you never pull. That's my thing. We can all say it's a read option, but if you never pull the ball, no one's going to sit there and stay on you.
It doesn't have the effect it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where you can call out Kirby, but I think this offensive coordinating needs to be looked at a little bit too, because obviously you're going to try to run the ball as you should, but when you had a situation where you needed to kind of speed things up, take a couple of shots downfield, you heard some boos in the third quarter about some of the play calls that were seen, and obviously you should not play to the crowd. But the bottom line is people could feel the way the game was going, and the fact that South Carolina's defense, and we do need to give them credit, the South Carolina front seven did enough to stay in the game. They got enough with their turnovers and did something with a couple of them to stay in the game, and their defense did just enough to give them one play better than Georgia at the end of all of it.
There's multiple things you mentioned there. First off, yes, credit to South Carolina's defensive front seven. Georgia just might not be a physical team. They might be built physically. Maybe they're not a physical team, though. Maybe we're putting that on them because we see five-star and big men up front and Ben Cleveland off the or on the guard position and Isaiah Wilson and Andrew Thomas there, but maybe they're not physical because the two biggest games, your loss and your win versus Notre Dame, you were out physical by both those teams. So maybe it's a talking point. Maybe I'm going to put it in quotes now, the best offensive line in the country, because you did not push around today.
There was a time, and this was 2 years ago, remember, when they inserted Ben Cleveland because it was
after the Auburn loss.
We need to be more physical up front.
Yep.
Ben Cleveland is the one guy where I don't think you ever have to question. He's going to be physical. But now it comes down to maybe the rest of my line are athletic guys, big, athletic, strong guys, but they ain't playing it as dirty as some of these other dudes are.
There's an interesting series, by the way. The final series Georgia had in the second overtime. You didn't gain a single yard for Rodrigo.
Nope.
You ran it once and threw it twice, which, in my mind, you're playing for the field goal at that point.
And one of the passes almost deflected. It might have been for a pick anyway.
Well, and that goes back to what Jake was doing the entire day. He threw back into the middle of the field.
High.
Into trash, high. It should have been picked. But I guess overall what I'm saying is, how did you not trust that offensive line? You ran it once and then decided to throw twice when you're playing for a field goal at that point. Give your guy a couple yards. I know it's hot rod. Give him some yards, though, to help him there.
404-231-1680. That's the number to get in here on College Game Day when we get back.
What's the fine for cursing?
I think it's 200 or 250,000, and I'm not sure.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
The second one will cost you your FCC license.
That might not be worth it.
Here at Dickey Broadcasting, you would not be here for your second offense or infraction. So watch the language. But 404-231-1680. When we get back, we wanted something other than predictable, but maybe it's predictable the way we want Georgia games to go. That's coming up next. Home team, Los, Brian Hoyt, live from Sports and Social here on College Game Day on the Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
And now I'm surrounded by Bama fans. I hate these people more than anybody. I'm surrounded by Bama fans.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Matt
I
Ryan.
saw Georgia fans leaving when I pulled up. I think they were just – it wasn't really shocked. They were more angry.
I saw a lot of them that were in the Uber line. I was like, man, I feel you.
$500 each. To register to win, go to attorneyKenNugent.com.
My wife actually slapped the window. I was like, uh-oh. Is she going to try and knock that thing out?
That's star KEN.
One call.
That's all. Ken Nugent is a proud partner of the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, I'm going to go pee-pee.
I'm going to go get a beer.
Even a personal loan. Hey, it's Chuck Dowell. Save money with my friends at Georgia's Own Credit Union. Because Georgia's Own is local and not-for-profit, they're known for having better rates and fewer fees. Now, through the end of November, you can save even more when you take advantage of their multi-loan discount. Get up to 1% off your next loan when you finance it with Georgia's Own. To learn more, visit georgiasown.org. I'm Chuck Dowell, and I'm one of Georgia's Own.
Restrictions apply. Offer valid through November 31st. Visit georgiasown.org for complete details.
Matt Stinchcomb here for Engineered Solutions of Georgia, proud partner of the Georgia Bulldogs. What should you do if you have a diagonal crack in your foundation? You should call Engineered Solutions of Georgia. The sooner you have it looked at, the better. You could have a serious problem that will only get worse over time and be costlier to repair in the long run. Give Engineered Solutions a call and have one of their qualified technicians come out to analyze your situation. Give Engineered Solutions of Georgia a call at 678-ESOG now.
Hey, get this. I'm getting free delivery on my groceries this month.
Free? How are you doing that?
Just by using code HOMEFREE on the Walmart grocery app.
That's for all your groceries? What about fresh fruit for your kids' lunches?
Free delivery.
Veggies for weeknight dinner?
A free delivery.
And that dinner party you're hosting?
Free delivery. Sorry.
Use code HOMEFREE to get free delivery all month. Walmart. Save money, live better. $50 minimum. Offer expires October 31st.
You know what you'll be doing this weekend? Whatever you want, because you won't have to spend that time painting. We'll do that for you. Hey, it's Xander from the Painting Company of Atlanta.
About a minute 30 out.
All right, any calls?
You and your family. Skip the stress.
Lotion's wife is on the line.
She wants to call in?
Atlanta always goes the extra.
Yeah, she's on hold right now.
Your wife is on hold. She wants to call in. The missus, we got to put a queen on. Mamie will be her name.
That's not my wife. That's a friend of mine.
Oh,
that is. She's friends with my wife. They okay. Mamie was in our wedding.
Okay.
And my wife was matron of honor in her wedding.
All right.
She's a huge listener.
All over town.
I'm very turned on by Mamie, by the way.
way.
Mamie and Forrest. What are they watching?
She sent me a text message on the way here. She's like, "I'm calling Monday." I go, "Call in now."
At 770-594-9969 and visit reliableair.com.
She's like what, 4'11"?
Oh yeah. Mamie's very small.
Yeah. You won't have to spend that time painting. We'll do that for
Derek, I like tiny girls.
Xander from the Painting Company of Atlanta. It's almost
not like Los. So married a woman that's 5'11".
5'10",
5'10 and a half. That's too much for me. Too much for me.
To make our customers happy. Locally owned and always with a personal touch. Check us out at AtlantaPaintingCompany.com and make sure to ask for the Fan Family discount when you call.
Maybe 5'1".
The painters you can trust.
It's hard to be sub 5 foot.
My ex was 4'11".
Oh yeah, see.
I like the little one.
Alcoholism early on.
I like what?
She just shut down the whole growing thing.
I remember Lisa trying to convince me that it's okay to have a glass of wine when you're pregnant.
When you're pregnant?
It actually is.
Yeah. Is it?
I know in the 70s that's all right. Is that all right now?
I'm trying to remember what it is.
You can smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly.
The Fans College Game Day, live from sports and social.
I
in the
pee-peed on
Battery
myself
Atlanta.
there.
We've got college scores and stats all afternoon on the college football voice of the South, The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM.
Can you smoke in here? I need to.
That's a good question. I don't know if this is a
No.
smoking environment in the Battery
There's
inside.
you're not going to find a whole lot of smoking environments in Atlanta anymore, except
Yeah.
for cigar bars. Like there are those.
Which are on the rise.
We're gonna
Yeah.
find out.
You got
Just
something you
gonna
want to light
one
up?
One of those days.
I need a smoke.
Goodness. It's College Game Day live from Sports and Social here in the Battery, Atlanta. Home team Brandon Leak. It is Los Medina and Brian Hoyt. We are here until 7 o'clock.
Yay.
We are taking your calls. Georgia Tech fans, feel free to call in. You had a better second half than first half.
They're having a great day, home team.
Looks
They're
like
happy.
they have a quarterback situation resolved as well. So if they want to talk about that, that's fine. Georgia fans, you certainly can call in. Coming up in about 5 minutes, a website had 5 reasons that Florida could beat LSU tonight. And Los is going to give us 3, but tell you why 2 are a joke.
2 are a total joke.
We're going to get to that in about 5 minutes.
Can I admit something to you?
Sure.
Because you and I are both lovers of the NBA. We
do.
But before it was fun to talk in this town about anything NBA, you and I would – it was like we were doing crack deals. It was like,
what?
Hey, man, did you see the Nuggets play last night?
Oh, I was watching it.
It was like we would always be watching it, right? So after Kawhi Leonard proceeds to miss a free throw in the 2013 game and Ray Allen hits the 3 in the
That was
corner
hurtful.
that creates the Game 7 essentially, I walked across the street to a gas station and was like, do you have anything like cigars or whatever? They were like, we got Swisher Sweets. I was like, I'll take like 3 packs of them. And I just sat at that bar smoking grape Swisher Sweets just to go, oh my God, I just gave this thing away.
And mellowed out.
And that's where his addiction started. Like
to
I remember,
grape Swisher Sweets.
I remember going over to Los's house for the first time to watch. Was it Georgia, Kentucky?
Georgia,
we won
Kentucky.
the SEC East.
Okay.
And he's like, you want to have a victory cigar? And I'm thinking like we're gonna get one of those fatties.
Nope.
He pulls out like White Owls or Swisher Sweets.
It was a grape Swisher Sweet.
Hey, there's a gas station and a Swisher Sweet near you.
I would
right.
like
Anywhere in America.
Are we gonna cut this open and then make something out of it?
No. Now you're modifying the product. Can't put that on the manufacturer. 404-231-1680. Obviously, disappointment. It will be anger for at least a week. You have a game against Kentucky. Well, you will be an overwhelming favorite, and then you'll probably win the game. But now, what does this loss at home do to Kirby Smart and to his staff? The fan base will be all right once the wins start getting to 8, 9, 10, 11, and that 9-1, 10-1 starts to get there. But what does this do to Kirby when you did have a game where it looked like you were flat? You didn't take shots down the field. You would think you would get 1 or 2 plays for Cager or somebody down the field that would be an explosive play. Not a lot of explosive plays, and you just kept it close enough. You just shot yourself in the foot enough to let South Carolina get a win in double overtime.
See, it's unfortunate that you don't get the W because you got the lesson. The lesson is you can't just roll out the ball and go play. Clemson was fortunate a couple weeks ago.
North Carolina.
They got the lesson and the W.
Correct.
That happens to teams over the course, and great teams that can go win major things. They get the lesson, hopefully the W. You got the loss with the lesson, and so what it means going forward, you better learn the lesson because you're good enough to beat everybody else on your schedule by 10 points without a problem. But you're going to have to take care of your business in order to make Atlanta matter in the first week in December.
And to your point, a point you made, sorry about that, Los, that this really doesn't matter right now because we always forget because of the rankings we get right now in the season, they don't mean anything.
Nothing.
The College Football Playoff Committee's rankings are those that matter. So the thing that still is to be gotten is in the favor of the College Football Playoff Committee. You still have time to do that. Now, what that means is there's no more messing around. You can't have any close games. You certainly can't have, even if you win, a close win against Kentucky and then one more loss later in the season. So now not only do the wins matter, how it looks matters, and now there's no more slack or wiggle room for Kirby and the Dogs going forward.
I disagree with that. I do believe you have the overall asterisk of
he's had a few.
asteroid, whatever.
3 syllables.
It's almost like you're saying like ass risk.
Asterisk.
She got an ass risk.
You
Never seen one of those before.
You have the SEC championship, which a lot of people don't. Whether it's LSU or Alabama, you have that. Clemson could have lost 2 weeks ago to North Carolina, and the ACC championship wasn't going to help them out. You've got that ability on December 7th to be helped out. But damn, that's hard to tell a Georgia fan today. And the players got to get over it, and the coaches got to get over it. But it's almost like telling, like, the Braves fan after what happened on Wednesday. It's almost like telling them, hey, you're in good position for the next couple of years. You got a young team and everything. I don't want to hear that right now.
See, this would be different if this particular loss happened against A&M or happened against Auburn, because you would have already been banking, hey, listen, I'm 8-0, and this is what happened.
I'm already in the bench.
Right. But now you are still having to deal with, albeit a freshman quarterback on the road. You get A&M at your place, and regardless of what you think about A&M, they're still a formidable team to hang around with Alabama. I believe it's like a 11-point game at half.
And they're a
it's
young
not
team.
crazy. And it's a younger team that's going to keep getting better and better as they keep recruiting as well. So though you do have landmines out there, and you have to now navigate all those along with Florida in order to make it to Atlanta.
Can we talk about James Coley for a second?
That's fine, because, we had a problem with the last offensive coordinator. Wasn't imaginative enough, a little bit too conservative. We want to see these tools and these 5 stars and the 5-star offensive linemen block for explosive plays. And now you're looking at a double overtime loss where you score 17 points at home.
And on top of that, and I know everybody was talking about, Kincaid was talking about with Buck earlier this week, you're going to have a game where Fromm's going to have to come and throw 35, 40 passes in order to win. You need to prepare for one of those. Fromm had 24 passes attempts in that first half.
Which is not Jake Fromm or UGA-like.
Jake Fromm should have that in an entire game at this point. And what is Fromm's record when he throws more than 30 passes in a game?
Now it's 0-6.
0-5?
0-5 now.
Oh, 0-5
0-5 now.
404-231-1680. The number to call here on the Fan, 680-93.7 FM. Let's go out to the phones and let's talk to Mamie. Mamie, thank you for calling us here on the Fan.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm a Georgia grad and a long-time listener of your shows. I have a few talking points. I mean, obviously the turnovers killed us today. It's really hard to overcome 4 turnovers in a game. And going on what y'all were talking about with James Coley, the run calls, to me, were just crazy conservative. We were having a lot of success on the edges, and all of a sudden, then we just kept running it up the middle, and their line was just beating us every single time. The other two things, just there was no sense of urgency. I saw no sense of urgency from Georgia at any point in the game ever. And then where was the up-tempo? Fromm does amazing when he gets it. I saw up-tempo real quick. And then, there were a couple of penalties and, of course, turnovers that stopped that a little bit. But, I mean, it was just terrible. So, anyway, coming from a long-time Georgia fan, that's my thought.
She makes the points about the up-tempo.
Thanks for the call, Mamie.
And Georgia's 2 best drives on the day were the one at the end of the third quarter going into the fourth quarter, which they went up-tempo there because, honestly, probably because they felt some of the heat of, hey, we got to turn this off.
We're down 7. We got to change something up.
And you come out of the fourth quarter and immediately fumble on that play.
Drop
and
the ball on the ground.
It's the snap between Fromm and Trey, and you just, what the hell just happened? Then you go up-tempo on your 96-yard drive. It's the 2 possessions they had that it looked like the offense was actually clicking on something. And the fact that they went to it so late just confuses me at this point.
And if this is against anybody else, you might be looking at a blowout. Let's not forget, you knock out the starting quarterback. The second-string quarterback is not available. You're playing against the third-string quarterback at South Carolina.
You knocked out the second-string quarterback.
He's not available anymore.
The first stringer is out after week 1. The second stringer, who's been good, Helinski's going to be a player in this league.
Yes, he is.
But when he goes down at that point, I'm kind of going, listen, it wasn't a dirty play. The leg whip is what hit Adam Anderson and knocked him into that.
Tripped.
Unfortunately, yeah,
It was not dirty.
He was not dirty. He was tripped into that play. That kid would have pulled up on him because, again, it's 3rd and 19. But when that happened, I went, you have a schematic advantage. You should win this football game.
As a Georgia fan, when it's, I believe it was it 17-10 going into the half? Yeah,
17-10 going into the half.
Fromm had just thrown the interception. It was the same thing with the Tennessee game last week. I wasn't worried. No big deal. I'm not going to show any sort of urgency. That's me as a fan. I don't have to. James Coley, Kirby Smart, I'd like to see you show a little more urgency somewhere on that offense, and they didn't do that until late in the third quarter when you only had 2 more possessions headed into the fourth quarter.
Steve, you're up next. Thank you for calling us here on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM.
Hey, good guys. A big Bulldog fan no matter what happened today, but the thing I want to point out is hiring a head coach as good as Kirby Smart is. I'm a full supporter of him, and today compared to Dabo Swinney or Nick Saban. The thing about the coaches are they're so smart and they know so much, but they're also hiring that same mentality where the coach could think, hey, I know everything, and that's where the stubbornness comes in. And I think that's what separates Kirby Smart from the Dabo and Saban right now. He's a very stubborn coach, and Saban, as smart as he is, he's not stubborn. He's willing to evaluate his game, willing to make certain choices. And I just see a lot of stubbornness from Smart, and I just don't know if it's something that will ever change. With his game plan, and not letting Rodrigo pick that ball, it's got me for a loss today.
Appreciate
Thanks
the
for
call,
the call, Steve.
and to a certain extent, a lot of that, like when your coach is stubborn, and they're all stubborn because they put here's 50 hours of work into it. Here's what I did with this. It all is about the result, because there was a time where over at Alabama they're humming right along, and they had made a point. We're going to go ahead and make sure, because we were 3rd or 4th in the country in recruiting, let's go get a bunch of guys that can recruit. But and our talent will take care of in-game. Well,
but from a coaching standpoint,
in-game you got killed against Clemson because you were stubborn from the standpoint of how you did it. It's the same thing to a certain extent with Georgia, where when you win, you ain't that worried about it. When you lose a ball game and you realize, why were we so dedicated to first and second down runs for so long, even though we knew the second down runs are getting almost nothing, and all
that's
we're doing
putting you in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6,
third and 7 the entire time. And you got to at some point you just got to go, hey, we're not going to be able to wear these guys down like we talked to each other for 30 hours of meetings that was going to happen.
And the strange thing was, too, with the play calling, there were a lot of late developing plays, things going downfield that looked like Coley was setting up instead of the underneath stuff. We all talk about how great Fromm is when he was, at the time at least, 48 for 49 and throws under 10 yards. That wasn't there today. And credit to South Carolina, because their linebackers weren't biting on a lot of play action. But you know what? You don't have to bite on play action when it's 3rd and 8. You really don't have to at that point.
It just seems to me, and maybe it's unfair to Kirby Smart because he's won and will win more than he loses, but it just seems like in the games where there are losses, it just seems like the conservative nature is at the wrong time and the overly aggressive nature is at the wrong time. If you're at LSU and it's the first quarter and you're going for a fake field goal, it didn't work out too well. If it's 4th down and instead of punting the ball away in the SEC championship, you're going for it when they've already figured out what you're doing. I don't know what was going on the first 3 quarters. The turnovers you can't put on the coach. That's on Jake Fromm, and he finally had a really bad regular season game. Yeah, also I think you have to put the fumble at the center quarterback exchange a little bit on him. He was working on it afterwards, but 4 turnovers with your quarterback on the field certainly helped the team with their 3rd-string quarterback do what they did today.
This is what's going to happen when we get into committee meetings and Georgia continues to go do what they do. At some point, somebody's going to sit down and go, so Jake Fromm played the worst game of his career. Would we all agree worst game of his career?
Yes.
They lost by 3 in double overtime.
Good point.
And they're going to go, hey, if he just plays average, they're going to, that's how good they are.
Even if he doesn't throw the pick 6?
Yeah, they're still okay. And that's where I say, yes, you have to finish your business by winning games. But if you were to tell me you got to Atlanta undefeated or you got to Atlanta with 1 loss, I'm telling you there's no difference between the two this year.
Vice versa, Jake has had one of these, as we talked about, every single year that he's been under center. It was Auburn, it was LSU, and right now it's South Carolina, and hopefully he can keep that to just 1 game a year. But you still had a chance to win this game, and that's what I continue to go back to. You turned the ball over 4 times today, and that's on Jake. That's not on Kirby. But you still had an opportunity to kick a field goal before you went into overtime, and you didn't even get that off.
And not just the fact that you turned the ball over 4 times. Then you didn't force them to turn it back on over to you. Do you realize how hard it is to win a football game where I'm going to have 8 possessions, maybe I'm going to have 10, but you're going to have 14 or 15 because of my mistakes.
Plus, I gave you 7 points on the pick 6.
Right.
I mean, that was the deciding factor. And the fact that all that happened and you had a chance and your coach did not put you in that position.
Did not give you the opportunity.
And I go back to these close games that he has lost, whether it was the Tennessee game, the Hail Mary, you had Lorenzo Carter back there. I mean, home team, you went over the list. You had Lorenzo Carter back there to try to defend it. The Vanderbilt game, where you had a 4th and 1 and Nick Chubb in the backfield and you ran Isaiah McKay. There are so many, when the clock is ticking down and the game is on the line, the decisions that he has made, I have numerous amount on one hand that he has failed at, and I can't think of one right now that he has succeeded at.
I sit back and I think, okay, his first year, they went to Isaiah McKenzie at the end of the game, and Eason got the ball to him, and you go, wow. But typically, you're not going to play close games. That's the way they've built this program.
I'm better than you. I'm going to physically dominate you.
And you know what? When my guys make a mistake, it's all right. We're still going to win by 3 touchdowns. It didn't happen today because you had those many mistakes.
Here's the funny thing, too, is we've always talked about this team, whether it's a close game at the first half, Georgia's ability in the second half to physically dominate you. I'm going to lean on you. I've got those big boys. I'm gonna show you what I've got in that second half, and I'm just going to lean on you and do my thing.
It's prison sex.
You could have done –
Goodness gracious.
I'm a gentle lover, but you could have done that in overtime. You chose not to do that in overtime. You chose to get cute in overtime. The second overtime, you could have laid on those guys and pushed them for 3 and 4 and a first down, and you didn't. You wanted to get cute and throw the damn ball.
Georgia Tech, they fall up the road in Durham to the Duke Blue Devils, 41-23. The game got away rather quickly as the Blue Devils were able to put 3 scores on the board within about a 4-minute span. A blocked punt return for a touchdown also helped do the Jackets in. But the second half, they looked a little bit better. They look like they have a quarterback in James Graham, so it took a few weeks to figure out how they were going to run the offense and do things that way. Saw the remnants of a run game try to get going, but it was a little bit late. That being said, I think Jacket fans in their loss at least have some positives. They did score some touchdowns today. Some positives to look for as you're in this rebuild mode year 1.
Okay, don't ask Hoyt because all he wants to do is mock because, by the way, Tech fans couldn't wait to tell him about a double overtime
Tech
loss.
fans are happy. They're all up in my mention. They didn't lose today, did they?
Well, there was a lot of back. I saw some Dog fans making fun of the Citadel loss.
It was 38-7 at one point in that game before it got to 38-14. But – and I heard the end with Andy Demetra talking about the idea of growth. And that's where you are as a Tech fan right now. Do I continue to see growth in my offense, growth at quarterback, growth at these positions? You're going to have a hard time winning 4 games. That was not far off when our friend Chris Landry said 4 games going to be tough. But you got to keep growing.
This was the last game where Tech was not going to be physically overmatched stepping off the bus.
Yeah.
Their cornerbacks are about the same size as your wide receivers. Their defensive line is close to your offensive line. Even the teams that are still trying to figure some things out in the ACC, Miami and Virginia Tech, those are some biggins getting off the bus and getting on the field. And so you just have to wonder if they're going to be able to get the points and the movement from the offensive line to compete as they go further down the road this season.
If you're a Tech fan and we're talking about growth, you have to be excited what you saw out of Graham today just because he did move the ball.
I would agree.
You had one touchdown, no interceptions. He threw it for over 200. Yes, he had 35 attempts, but he's growing there. Here's the problem. You're not growing on the defensive side, and we've talked about their talent is in the back end of that team.
Missed tackles today, too.
In every single loss Georgia Tech has had, they've given up over 195 yards rushing in every single loss, and that goes today. They gave up 197 on the ground. If Jeff Collins wants to preach physical and that type of football, you got to get something going on that run-stopping side of the ball.
If this is a Disney movie or a really good kids movie,
who's the princess?
By the end of the season,
the virgin,
they're going to win some game that nobody expected them to win. Now, I don't think it's going to come against
they already
Georgia
played Clemson.
because that's different. But there's going to be like, and then they face their arch enemy, Florida State. And they came through with a victory because, you know, that's how those movies play out. But there's going to be a time where you hope it all comes together over a 10-game span that game 11, you see the results of all the work they put in.
Screw it. They'll be Georgia at this point. I don't care.
Oh, goodness.
He doesn't even care.
I'm sure the Jacket Nation would love that.
Whatever.
404-231-1680. Another big game on the board yet to be played, the biggie tonight in the SEC, LSU and Florida. And you brought up an interesting point last night when we were throwing some ideas around, and you were talking about SI.com putting out 5 reasons Florida could beat LSU, and you gave it a good look over, Los, and you agreed with some of it, and then 2 of them you thought were a joke. Now, there were 5. Of the 5, you say 3 are legitimate, 2 are an absolute joke. What I'm looking for to see is how real the Florida defense is because they have a grown man that's coming at quarterback. And if they're not going to get to Joe Burrow, they're going to get lit up embarrassingly, I think.
Well, this is a team, and I went through some of the numbers over the weekend, and we'll get into it a little bit later, where the numbers are a little bit inflated because of Tennessee Chattanooga,
right,
Towson,
And 10 sacks versus Miami?
And Tennessee. No, even
that was
even
legit.
Because remember,
Okay.
Miami still scored points even though they were having their quarterback sacked. When they go into it and they say, hey, we're only giving up 9.5 points per game, if you were to eliminate the underlings, it's 18. So, I mean, it's good defense, but it's not this elite, oh, my God, here's what they are defensively. But, we'll see some more of that tonight. So, SI.com ends up having a breakdown of the 5 reasons why they can get this thing done.
Do you want to list them off, and home team and I'll either buzz or ding in?
Okay. I'll put it out here, and you say agree or disagree. Okay, number 5. Remember,
ding or buzz.
Now remember, I do. You just say your last name.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, and then you get to jump in. All right, number 5. Florida and LSU don't blow each other out.
A home team.
I'm confused at the
Why don't you take this one?
leak.
Fire away.
There's still some questions about offense, I would think, that the offense has operated a little better, but they haven't really played what I call a for-real team. The strength has been the defense and all of the players and what they're supposed to be defensively, so I'm a little bit confused how they're going to both be close. Somebody is going to get beaten up tonight.
Hoyt on this one, I think LSU can blow out Florida.
Yes.
I don't think Florida can blow out LSU.
See, that's the thing. When I read this, I went, because they're using the historical data since 1971 that, hey, these teams don't do that to one another typically. Well,
got you.
These two teams are diametrically opposed this year from what they are.
And since 71, it's been like 50 years that LSU has never run this offense before, by the way.
Totally different. Number 4, Florida's defense is elite.
Hoyt. I don't know why I said my name. I think actually I do think Florida is up there. Like they're back. They can rush you with 4, and there's very few teams in this country that can do that. I'll give you Florida's defense might be elite. Not the scoring defense. Their front 4 is legit, and we saw that last week against Auburn.
Number 3, LSU might be taking Florida lightly.
Leak.
Yes.
No way in the world.
It's an 8 o'clock game in Baton Rouge.
Are you kidding me?
Okay, this was my first hell nah of this article.
Yeah, they're thinking that now they can get into the college football playoff. They are on national TV. They have the offense rolling. They are not taking anybody lightly. They are looking ahead to no one, and certainly everybody will be talking about this showdown with Bama, but no, they are certainly not overlooking the Gators.
And after talking to Frank Duffy this week, one of the biggest LSU fans in the world,
right?
After what Florida did to LSU last year, boy, are they ready for some revenge right now. So no chance.
Number 2, Florida's offense has come through when they need it.
Hoyt, what the hell are they talking about?
Exactly. It's like, listen, they're bad, but they've been good enough to win. I was like, all right, now number 1.
So number 1, we got to agree with.
All right.
Dan Mullen is a damn good coach.
I'm leak. Yes.
Medina, yes. Recruiter, not so much.
Okay, that's a different thing.
It's a different thing. They have not had, remember, Florida, for the first time in a decade, think about how long that is, a decade, did not have a player drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. They have spent the better part of the last 20 years where it's at least one guy, at least a couple of guys, Florida players dotting this thing. The recruiting under Jim McElwain leading into Dan Mullen is now finally catching up where they do not have that kind of talent. Now, again, damn good coach, not a great recruiter.
Well, and I'm looking at what he's done with Kyle, by the way, since Felipe Franks went out. I think he's done a better job with him than he ever did with Felipe Franks. They're getting it done, and I don't know if it's a different set at quarterback, a different guy there or whatnot, but it just seems like Dan Mullen has things rolling a little bit better, even when it's not his guy.
Well, we want to tell you about a fantastic opportunity. You can register all season long for a conference championship game day experience that will include a pregame at Sports and Social right here in the Battery, transportation to the 680 The Fan's championship tailgate party, and you will get 2 tickets to the championship game that they play in the building called The Bins. That's December 7th, 19th year of our Lord this decade.
What game
I
could that
can't
be?
say certain things.
Why not?
But a game December 7th in the Bins. You can get 2 tickets for that if you register. All you have to do is go to 680thefan.com/championship to register. We'll also give away a VIP table here at Sports and Social, where the conference championship will be on, and you can get yourself a $2,000 tab.
I might need to ride home tonight, home team.
I'll take you home. Don't worry about it.
Thank
I'll make
you.
sure you get home safely. When we get back, you and Carlos Medina have a pretty good idea that you think will replace the baseball card that could make you guys some money. We'll get to that.
All of us, not just we're going to take you with us, home team.
I'll ride with you guys.
All right.
We'll get to that as well as your Georgia Tech and Georgia calls here on College Game Day live from Sports and Social. Home team, Los Hoyt, here on the Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
680 The Fan's College Football Saturday, powered by Georgia's Own Credit Union. Become one of Georgia's Own now at georgiasown.org.
Football season has arrived, and Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse is ready to help you celebrate. A memorable evening awaits here, featuring USDA prime steaks, fresh seafood, chef-made side dishes, and an award-winning wine list. So whether it's a birthday, anniversary, or even just the latest football victory, Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse in Dunwoody is the place for all your celebrations. Visit delfriscos.com to view menus or to make a reservation.
Matt Stinchcomb here for Engineered Solutions of Georgia, proud partner of the Georgia Bulldogs. What should you do if you have a diagonal crack in your foundation? You should call Engineered Solutions of Georgia. The sooner you have it looked at, the better. You could have a serious problem that will only get worse over time and be costlier to repair.
Zeno's trying to tell me all my goals are still in front of me.
Qualified technicians come out to analyze your situation.
I told him I hate you.
Engineered Solutions of Georgia, call it 678-ESOG now.
When I get divorced, don't tell me there's plenty of fish in the sea. At least wait a day.
I was watching TV the other day, and
I just signed the paper.
Awful TV lawyers bragging about receiving over 2
Goodness.
million phone calls of potential clients. If you were injured in an accident, why
Home
would you
team.
want your call mixed in with
Heaven
2
forbid
million
something
dollars
happened to
today?
Miss
I don't wanna
Tracy.
get lost in the shuffle of a big
You get
TV
married again,
advertising law firm.
or are you
I
just
want
gonna call
personal
it?
attention, that's why
I mean, I think I could get married again. I mean, I don't have a problem getting women, and I'll be kind of the same guy. I don't think I would be a bachelor for like a decade. I wouldn't think that I would not go out with anybody. I would not think that.
I think it's a mentality.
How would you meet people?
I think the better question is, what is the time frame? Like, if you do lose your wife, when are you supposed to kind of get back on the horse? Or
20 days.
I'm kind of with Lowe's. You got to get
Hold
back on that
I'm
thing.
saving that one for next week. We might not have time to get in that.
You got to get back on that thing.
I think actually it's years of marriage.
Divided by?
We got to come up with a formula.
Years of marriage by day times 3.
So I've been married 5 years.
15 days.
Done. 2 weeks. Dude, the funeral might not even happen by 2 weeks.
Okay. So 57.
58. All right.
I've been trying to break it 56. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, for instance, 13 years, 39 days. So I got to go past a month. Like, we're going to have a moon change.
What do you do? Hire a babysitter? And hey, Macy,
No, but
Daddy's going out to find another mommy.
No, but what I would say is this too, and this is where it's different as we get older. It's more weird if you are, let's say, hey, I'm 35, 40, 45, and I've never been married. Like, so if you happen to also have a kid in tow, that's more reasonable than, hey, I'm the 45-year-old guy who's never been with anybody. Like the Mike Bell of the world, that's messed up. Like that S ain't right. But Mike found somebody who was willing to tolerate it.
That is true.
You know?
Or Charles.
Yeah. But again, been married before.
Would you get married again?
You know, 3 is a tough one, right?
Now this would be your 3rd time.
That would be his 3rd. It would be funny to have to explain that one.
I think I got to tap out at that point. Like it's on me.
It's like, listen, I'm going to need a 20 on this whole marriage thing.
No. If she dies, that's on her. That's not on me.
No, you're just a widower.
Oh, no, in that case, you're
I can
the
go
clear.
back out.
Right.
Now, if she divorces me,
She leaves him out.
I just got to tap.
That's it.
I'm done.
Like, I can't make this work.
I'm going to be a Mahaney.
I'm going to be a Mahaney. I got 5 of these things.
You think he's watching? I hope not.
One call,
That's all. Ken Nugent is a proud partner of the Atlanta Falcons.
Are you in the market for an auto loan, a boat loan, or even a personal loan? Hey, it's Chuck Dowd.
I got to grab
Save money with
my
our
read
friends
pack
at Georgia's Own Credit Union.
over at the
Because
station,
Georgia's Own is local and not-for-profit,
which I think might be the
they're
new
known
one.
for having better rates and
That
fewer
might.
fees. Now, through the end of November, you can save even more when you take advantage of their multi-loan discount. Get up to 1% off your next loan when you finance it with Georgia's Own. To learn more, visit georgiasown.org.
Is that Wisconsin? Where is that?
Yeah.
Restrictions apply. Offer valid through November 31st.
It gets loud in there.
They are playing hella defense. They're number one in the country. People don't score on them.
And they can run the ball.
And they can run.
And eliminates hauling headaches. Truckit is a comprehensive solution.
How
that saves
sad
you
my
lots of
pro
time
team
and money.
is.
Visit
I'm going to ask you what I asked everybody on this show. Which
Kurt
Falcon would you want? Would you want
Julio?
I'll just start off with. Would you want Julio Jones?
Yes.
Yes.
That's one. Would you want? Let me talk for your team. Would you want Matt Ryan?
It's a
That's
wash.
not a yes.
That's a wash.
It's only because he costs a lot. Mine doesn't. Mine's young.
All right.
Like mine at 25 gives me a decade, but just like yours gave you a
Here,
decade.
49ers, I'll take Matt Ryan.
Would you want Alex Mack?
Not now.
Would you want Jamon Brown?
No.
Would you want Adrian Claiborne?
I take your guard if he was healthy.
How about Grady? Can I have Grady?
We
Nope.
named 8 starters that nobody would want.
I take Grady Jarrett.
You take Grady. We could name 8 starters.
I
that
take
people would not
Dion.
want.
I take Dion. I take Grady without a doubt.
We're in trouble, man.
Well, what happened is
Not Devontae.
not that you
Would you
got,
want Devontae Freeman?
No, you didn't get old. It's that those young veterans got hurt and ran out of gas quick.
I would take Calvin.
Like Trufant at 28, you're like,
On all the afternoon college action. The Fans College Game Day, live from Sports and Social on the biggest college football station in the country, The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM.
This show sucks.
yeah, but we're at the right place
Well,
over at Sports and Social.
It's like the Georgia season. There's still time.
The women in this place are always ridiculous. Like,
I don't-
stop by. Come watch football here.
I don't know if you are 21 and over.
Yes.
I don't know why you aren't at Sports and Social.
Oh, if
every
you're
week.
underage, just sneak in.
That's not going to work around here.
Find yourself a cougar and just take the rest of your life and
Get a
enjoy
sugar
it.
mama.
That's right.
a cougar or now some of these guys are going to the saber tooth.
Oh, is that
Oh,
what it is?
no,
at
a
this point?
grandmother?
Yeah, they're going
Oh,
up
no.
a generation.
Oh,
these,
no.
these grandmas now trying to find a way to make sure that they have happy times in the last fourth quarters of their lives.
Well, they're going to die eventually, and they got to leave their money to somebody.
Might as well be you.
404 231 1680.
Such a
She
good
left me a.
segue.
I watched a documentary the other day on this female serial killer.
Okay.
She ended up inheriting a horse farm, like 100 acres in some beautiful area, northeastern area of the country, and all she had to do was basically make this guy go crazy and then kill him after like 5 years.
That's what's up.
Got the money.
Got
She's
the money,
good to go.
got
So
all
she
of it.
thought.
Yeah, she did it right.
She had a plan.
Dude.
You guys have a plan.
Yeah.
Apparently, you have a new idea that you think will replace the baseball card and be profitable at the same time. Explain. Do tell.
Brian Hoyt and I are what do we call us? We're
I've
we're
drank too
opportunistic, but we're also entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the melding of the two.
Okay.
We should take this to Shark Tank.
And we started talking about how there are people like our friend Chuck Oliver who will spend crazy amounts of money on baseball cards. We started saying how, but baseball cards though, you almost have to have like a certain year and a certain group to have any value. I got a card from '85, has no value, man. Like, it better be from '65 or '55.
And does a 22-year-old get into that game so that 20 years from now it still has that kind of value?
No, does not work that same way. But Hoyt and I think we have discovered what's going to be the next version of baseball cards that, like, we've all had that fantasy of, like, I went up to Granddad's, junk
the
locker
attic.
and I found a Mantle rookie card and I found this and this and this because all those were just thrown away.
Okay.
Hoyt and I have figured out what the next thing is going to be and how we're going to win with it.
Okay.
Nudie magazines.
That's been done before.
High-end
What are you talking about?
nudie magazines.
I think you guys are about 60 years too late.
No.
No.
Do tell.
We're not inventing them. We're
No.
not creating them.
Okay.
No. Let me give you an example. There is a 1993 Playboy that features the girls of the Pac-10, right?
Okay.
I'm talking Pac-12, Pac-10 at the time, right? And it has all these girls in a phone booth, and the person who's holding the phone, who's standing just outside the phone booth, is Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
Now, that particular Playboy in mint condition, because it was regionally released, is worth, I think it was like $3,000 to $6,000.
Wow, one copy.
One copy. There is a picture of Pamela Anderson sitting on the lap of Dan Aykroyd. Now, do you remember the movie Coneheads?
I do.
Saturday Night Live thing, they made into a movie. They were on the cover of Playboy. That one in mint condition runs like $5,000.
Okay, let me stop you.
Do you know how difficult it is to find a mint condition
Well, I was
Playboy
say,
to start with?
How many of these publications are going to be in mint condition? Because I'm sure they've been thumbed through, literally, and I'm sure they've been perused a time or 8.
Hence the treasure quest. Now, the difference in this, like a baseball card has a certain historical value. Oh, I have a card from 1968 and I can turn it over. A magazine in perfect condition, you will get, this is what this place was. This is an archive of sorts from that era.
I like the thought process, but now, I play defense. So let me just throw something out before you make your pitch to the Sharks at Shark Tank. You live in an era now, you might get sued. So in the 1993 edition of anything, that's now going to have somebody's mama on it. Those are not 3 cheerleaders anymore. Those are 3 mothers.
Oh, she consented to this.
Yeah, now she's moved on from that, and if she's working in the Fortune 500 world, and you bring that back up, and you guys are trying to profit.
She signed off on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And here's the idea of this, there was a father one day or a grandfather that took his Mickey Mantle and didn't think it was going to be worth anything
That's
in the 60s.
true.
And he put it in his bicycle spokes and he made that noise.
Right.
Or he just threw it in a suitcase.
In a box.
And there were a bunch of cards there. It's going to be so difficult to find pornography in mint condition that it's going to be a rarity. People are going to want to buy this. You got to get ahead of this idea.
They don't make Playboy magazines anymore.
Correct.
And so Hoyt and I, what we're offering is because, your dad is dirty. Your grandfather's dirty.
He's got that stash.
He's got that
closet.
stash up in the attic and everything. We will discreetly come over to your house and remove it from your home, and we'll take care of it from there. We will love it. We will dispose of it, and do that for a small fee.
Now I see where you're going. You might be able to convince Mark Cuban,
like
Barbara Corcoran, into something like that.
Like while the family is at church, we'll come in. We'll take that black box from out of the closet.
Now, if you got these crazy, it's all Swank and Penthouse and Buster, that's not going to work for us. But if you got Playboys, really from long ago, then we're in.
Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know. We'll get it out of your house.
All right, when we get back, did Kirby Smart blow it, or was he beaten up? We'll get to that. Home team, Los, Hoyt, live from Sports and Social here in the Battery, Atlanta. College Game Day on the Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
From the station that brought you the green
So,
card comes
I don't know if Swank or Buster just kind of seem like fun, weird magazine names.
You'll get 5 amazing Atlanta experiences all on one.
You gonna come back over to my house, get all my dad's Swanks?
Look, she's out. Go ahead. Get it. She's got the girls down at the soccer game.
Yeah, they're all down there. You got to go get dad's Swanks out of the closet.
Swank. What do we have? We had Blacktail.
See, that was, I don't know if you remember this.
Blacktail.
I don't know if you remember this. This is 15 years ago or so. Whenever, Matt and Chuck Oliver or Matt and Chuck Smith, when they would give us, Falcons tickets, and we would do a scavenger hunt, and we would be like, hey, we'd be at the Falcons shop at Lenox Mall, and we'd be like, listen, you got to bring these 4 things in order to win the tickets. It was like a gardening tool, something that has Falcons paraphernalia, whatever, and an issue of Blacktail. And you would see dudes running through the mall, trying to
with
get
a
their
rake and Blacktail.
Like a rake and a Blacktail magazine.
So my dad was just a classic Playboy guy.
Yeah.
But my stepbrother, or half-brother, Timmy, who was 10 years older than me, went to the military. Well, apparently they messed him up. And I found his stash.
He got some German.
Considerably different.
German magazines or
he
something?
He got the Tinkle magazine.
Oh, good
no.
gracious. That'll warp a young kid, a young man.
Listen, there's all types.
But he's seen people die. You know what I mean? That changes
so it. Used
that
to
takes
be
it up a bar.
Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler.
Yep.
Then you kind of got into your lower tier.
You got to the sub-tier of specialty magazines
Then it became trash.
Based on your kink.
I will say it's one of the things I miss about living outside the perimeter now. Like inside the perimeter, you can still find a magazine rack in a gas station.
I haven't looked in so many years.
That has that black or that cardboard over
yeah.
it. You can't find that anywhere like a racetrack or a Quick Trip. These poor kids are just growing up with internet porn.
I have no sympathy for these kids. They don't have to do it. They're lazy. All they have to do is get on their phone. They don't have to hide anything.
Back in the day, I had to imagine what a boob looked like through squiggly porn. I'm telling you, I did myself to so many, I'm probably sure, dudes, but I just thought it was a lady because I saw a nipple. It was probably a dude's nipple. But I didn't know.
Did we haven't had any sports updates, have we?
No.
So,
you wanna do that?
Well, no, but I'm just saying. What about I think the scoreboards are supposed to be sponsored.
GUCU?
Yeah, so should we just tag them or should we just do a scoreboard?
I'd just give an update.
Give an update like, hey,
all right,
it's 34-13. Sorry, it's about to be. It's 34-13. All brought to you by GUCU.
All right, so I'll just give two more breaks. We can get it done.
So, yeah, that was the first time Mamie had ever called. She's wanted to call for like 6 years.
Good
call,
Mamie.
I was like, good call, Mamie.
Truck it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Do you have the read home team? You want me to find it?
I do have the read.
To see Mamie.
No, I do not.
And my wife next to her daughter and my daughter.
Okay,
same
like, age?
Well, yeah, they're within like about 6 months of each other. But like Mamie at like 5 foot, my wife at like 5'10", and then her daughter's little and my daughter's 4'10".
You think both your girls gonna be tall?
They already are.
They already are. I mean, she's tall. I mean, that was just during the summer.
Wow, a growth spurt.
Yeah.
Boy, time flies.
They're tall. They I left the show early Friday. They were in the talent show.
Okay.
And they actually got up on stage and they sang a song. It was.
All right.
I was like, I would have been scared to death. But they
Did they practice? How long did they practice?
They had to audition, and they got in through the audition, and then they practiced for probably about a week and a half. So they knew the song and everything else, but it's just a matter of like, here's like 200 people in an auditorium looking at you. You know, can you do it? And they did it.
Brown & Company Jewelers on Holcomb Bridge Road in Roswell and Peachtree Road in Buckhead. Online at brownjewelers.com.
This is Atlanta's home for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the Kennesaw State Owls, and the official sports talk station of the Georgia Bulldogs. WCNN North Atlanta, a Dickey broadcasting station, and the biggest college football station in the country. The Fan, 680 and 93.7
I just texted it to you, home team.
The Fan's College Game Day, live from Sports and Social. We've got college scores and stats all afternoon on the college football voice of the South. The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM.
Welcome back in. Welcome back in to College Game Day. Home team, Los, Hoyt. We are here until 7 o'clock live from Sports and Social here on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM. I was just showing a picture of Chris Domino, who you can hear on Domino and Cellini, 9 to noon here on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM, Monday through Friday. And somebody has done an excellent picture of the Photoshop.
And also tomorrow from 10 to 1, as we'll be doing the
That's right.
Atlanta's official NFL pregame show. But yes, whoever decided to do that to Chris Domino, you made him look like
he's got a full mustache and
a full head of hair.
Well, it looks like one of those Beatles toupees.
Yes, it's like a Beatles toupee.
Like.
So we're going to change this to his Twitter avatar. Do you know this about home team?
It keeps changing. I didn't know if he was doing it.
We keep changing it.
Oh, it's you two guys? Oh, God.
Well, it's not me. Initially,
that ain't right.
Hoyt, like 2 years ago, changed the background to Don Larson, and I don't know, he messed with the picture somehow.
He never picked up on it, and then I changed his photo on Twitter, his avatar, to the Cellini head, but the Domino from nose down.
Right.
And he never picked up on that, so I think we're going to change it to this.
Well, he's going to notice that because that looks like a really bad toupee on the great Chris Domino. 404-231-1680. Home team, Los and Hoyt. We're here till 7 o'clock. Georgia Tech fans, call in, weigh in on what you saw and what you heard here on the Fan, 680-93.7 FM, as the Jackets fell on the road to the Duke Blue Devils 41-23, a better second half. Georgia fans, you can sound off on the double overtime loss to South Carolina.
What? We lost?
20-17 in double overtime, a game that was a little wild at the end. Georgia setting up for a potential game-winning field goal, you would think, except they ran one more play on third down. They got an illegal shift, which kicked them out of field goal range. They go to overtime. They throw an interception. South Carolina misses a field goal. South Carolina is then able to come up with a field goal, and then they come up with a missed field goal by Rodrigo Blankenship. A wild end to that game. A big game coming up between Florida and LSU. We'll certainly get into that, and then we'll update you on some scores that are in the books and some games in progress. For Georgia Tech, you have yourself a quarterback now. Can he operate with the young wide receiver? A whole smattering of freshman and sophomore wide receivers. The offensive line is going to take a few recruiting classes to get that thing where you want it. For Georgia, are you upset at Kirby Smart?
Yes.
And blaming him? Or are you blaming the turnovers?
Yes.
That Jake Fromm came up with 3 interceptions, including a pick 6 and a lost fumble with a bad center quarterback exchange.
I have not been this upset over a Georgia football game since going back to about 6 years ago when they were on the road in Knoxville, had a lead, and just everything fell apart on them. And that was the year. And this was the year before they moved on from Mark Richt. But I said, I'm done with Richt. I'm done with this era. I'm done with how things go. Now, I don't feel anything like that with Kirby Smart. Don't get me wrong. Not at all. I believe in what they're doing here. I love the talent they're recruiting. I love the way they go about their business. I love the mentality and the culture there. But this was one of those games where you lost by 3 in double overtime, and you could list out all of the mistakes that allowed a team that was significantly worse than you to end up beating you. And that's a frustrating day to have.
I think overall my frustration and concern, I should say, would be on the physicality of this team on both lines of scrimmage. And the last time I saw this team and the last time I was this upset, we were here, this exact location, watching Auburn and Georgia play in Jordan-Hare 2 years ago.
Push them around.
They got physically dominated on the line. Now, the nice thing was you already had the East locked up at that point in time. You were already going to the Benz to play for an SEC championship no matter who was against. But you got pushed around by South Carolina. Not by Auburn, not by a team that recruits and coaches and schemes and everything else. You just got outplayed today. You got owned man on man. You got beat by guys that were less talented than you. And to me, ultimately, that comes down to coaching and preparing your guys to get ready for look, we can call it a noon kickoff and a lazy day and the fans weren't into it and there were open sections of the stadium. Forget that. You're a better team than them. You're a more talented team than them. You should never, ever get pushed around. Yes, 12 o'clock noon games suck and nobody's into it and you can't drink and everything else. Doesn't matter. It should not happen.
How much of this is on the defense, too? We can talk about certainly immediately the turnovers, but you got no turnovers. Playing against a third-string quarterback, no tip balls, no sack fumbles, no strips from running backs, no turnovers from Kirby Smart's defense. You lost the turnover battle horrendously. You didn't come up with the big enough stops late in the ball game, and you just let them get in the field goal range enough in the first half for them to kick that long one. Where was the defense if your offense isn't working or playing its best game? Isn't that when your defense is supposed to shine and take over and lead the way for the Dogs?
You gave up 7 points. The defense before overtime gave up 10 points in an SEC football game.
Yep.
That was what they did.
Fair
10
enough.
points. Georgia's average has been sitting right at 10 points. They played exactly to the level that we have seen them play. Whether it doesn't matter if they're playing against Notre Dame or Tennessee or whatever, they've been sitting on an average of about 10 points.
But you needed more today.
No, and I get that. But I look more over at the offense and go, ain't a reason why my defense should give up 10 points and be down by 7 late in the ball game, having to go ahead and chase a touchdown in the last 90 seconds.
I agree with everything Lowe said. You can nitpick if you want. There was not, quote, havoc today. There was not there was not a turnover. There were not sacks in the backfield. You got to South Carolina's third-string quarterback, and you still were not creating havoc. So, and they were predictable, by the way.
I need to find the opposite. The antonym to havoc, because it was that today.
Everything they were doing with their third-string quarterback quarterback was predictable.
It's a good call.
But with that said, the defense did enough to win a game today. Jake Fromm throwing 50-plus times should never happen in a game. And again, that falls back on the physicality of the offensive line. You want to say you have the best guys in the country, the best O-line in the country? You got manhandled up front today. You could not. You did get Swift some carries, and you got him some yards. Here's another thing, explosive plays.
Yeah.
I didn't see a ton of explosive plays. On the final drive, the 96-yard drive Georgia had, you had 2 explosive plays, 1 to Blaylock and I believe 1 to Pickens. Other than that, you had no explosive plays. DeAndre Swift is getting the ball in space. He's not making guys miss. He's not breaking tackles, which is something we saw for the longest time from him. You've got Zeus. There is a hole opening, and he decides to run into the pile over and over and over again when the hole is there on the backside, and he's not hitting it. So, yeah, you can nitpick the defense. This falls on the offense to me.
For me, and this was the frustration point, this was a team that was constantly getting basically, 7-man front, first down, run it down your throat, I got 5 yards. Then when the commitment was to, all right, we're going to tighten this thing up, and Georgia sitting back saying, all right, we're just going to keep trying to run the football, constantly you keep running into these 8-man fronts, you keep running into these bad situations where it's suddenly, you know what, it was 2nd and 5, now it's 3rd and 4, and I got to go pick that up. Those were the parts that were frustrating, that when South Carolina decided we need to take away the run, Georgia could not run the ball on them.
And we heard Mamie call in earlier. She had a very good point. And to what you were saying, just running it right in between the A and B gaps. Why not work the edges? You have guys where the first tackler there, DeAndre Swift is never worried about the first tackler. Even Cook, you can find a way to get him out on the edges. You would think a little bit more in the opportunities. Work the edges a little bit more. Make the South Carolina defense run. And by the way, Georgia ran 95 plays. So to run 95 plays and come away with 17 points, there were a whole lot of things that didn't work today.
And to that point, it's not just run it outside. Like, Cook didn't have a lot of runs outside, which we saw early in the season. It's hitting Cook out in the flats. It's hitting Swift out in the flats and lining him up on a linebacker and letting him beat that linebacker. There was not a lot of beating that linebacker over and over again. And another thing I go to, South Carolina played a lot of cover 1. They had 1 safety over the top. They put the man in the box, which puts you 8 in the box, so you've got man coverage on the outside. You had nobody beating men on the outside. And when you did beat him, Fromm was just not there. There were so many throws where he was throwing behind somebody, and whether Wolf would bring it in or Tajer would bring it in when he was healthy, there were so many throws, though, that were not on the money like we've expected out of Jake Fromm over and over again, that's what's lost you the game today.
Is it time? This was one, and I was saying, and I meant it before today. Jake Fromm, I don't care how many losses the Dogs have while he's been quarterback.
We burned down Athens.
He's had none, because even in the losses, your defense let you down. Whether it was Auburn or LSU running all over you for 250 and 275 yards. Not today. Today, Jake Fromm did have a bad game. Today, Jake Fromm, even though he almost brought them back, he did turn it over way too much. He hurt his team, and he did not make enough explosive plays when the team needed him to. So finally, it looks like there is one where you can't look anywhere else except for the trigger man to start.
No, this was the worst performance of his career. And what did it take, 34 starts before we could say something like that? It's not like it's one of those deals where you go, man, every 3 or 4 games he is not good. Typically he's really good. And today, I think the part that was frustrating me, the balls back over the middle that were high. You learn as a quarterback, especially when you start moving to your right or left, if you decide to go back inside, you've got to go low. You can't do these sort of things. And those balls were ripe to be picked off. You can't go late to the outside and be wide with the football. There's so many things like that he never ever does, but did today, and you saw the reasons why you don't do those things.
When guys were open, he was missing them. And when I say missing, it's not like he was throwing them high, throwing them low. He wasn't even seeing it when he went through his progression. He was missing guys going through his progression. We talk about the Auburn loss or the LSU loss last year and 2 years ago.
Loss, it was not a game where you had a lot of energy. It was not a game where you could come back and overcome. There was no havoc at all today. That's the bad. The good is that you still have a lot to play for. Your chances to go to the SEC title game and win the SEC East, those plans are not derailed, and you still have a chance, maybe, even though it's tough, to use this as fuel to show everybody you have no more wiggle room the rest of the year.
My biggest frustration is based off of You lost to an LSU. You lost to an Auburn. They were the better teams that day. You lost to Alabama in a national championship and an SEC championship. Better teams, fine, you lost, whether Kirby put you in a good position or not in those games. You lost to a team that was worse than you today, and I'm talking a lot worse than you today.
This is the first time in a 3-year run where you went, we got beat by a team that was inferior to us, that cannot typically play with us, that if we played 10 times, we're going to win 10 times.
Even if we play our worst game, we should win those games. And to me, that's reminiscent of home team, as you put out in your tweet before we ever got on the air, Mark Richt and the old staff, and that's why he's not here. And nobody's calling for Kirby's head, but I cannot have lackadaisical kind of days like this. You just can't.
When we get back, we'll talk about that. Did Kirby Smart do something we saw Mark Richt do way too much? We'll get to that. Home team, Los, Brian Hoyt. We are live here at College Game Day, live from Sports and Social, here in the Battery, Atlanta, on the Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
The Braves have some things to fix this offseason, and the biggest baseball station in the South has you covered with a direct link to the Braves front office. And we'll be the only station live from the 2019 MLB Winter Meetings, Atlanta's baseball station, The Fan.
Yes, the Matt's back again. Matt Chernoff and my buddy Matt Breda of Breda Pest Management here to talk to you about termite protection today.
We have two choices as homeowners for termite protection. One, place bait stations around your home, or two, put a continuous liquid barrier around your home. Now, I'm not a fan of bait stations. It relies on technicians finding every station, and it relies on the technician to change out the bait based on their findings. That's a recipe for disaster. Why not give the client the best protection and treat their home as you would your own home? You know, Matt, Paul Bello, well-respected consultant in our industry. He did a class, 102 participants. The average room experience was 19 and a half years. And the question he asked, knowing what we all know about termites, how would you want your own personal home treated? The choices were liquid, baits, or a combination. One person said baits. Now that says it all.
Well, the obvious decision is make the switch to Breda Pest Management. Find them online at BredaPest.com. It's spelled B-R-E-D-A, BredaPest.com. Mortgage rates are now at a 3-year low. You could save thousands annually with just a 10-minute call to my mortgage company, Bright Path Mortgage. Trust me,
all right.
It worked for me. They have saved me
Keith,
thousands so far. And
is there a sounder? So usually Rhino has done the sports updates.
No, I don't have a sports update.
Okay, so don't worry about it. What I'll do is I'll just do it within the segment so that we can get these reads in. So I was noticing on the log sheet, we weren't doing updates. So what I'll do is I'll just give a quick SEC and top 25 Georgia Credit Union update so we can get those out of the way.
All right, yeah, and you should only need 2 because we missed the first hour.
Okay, I will mark that down. I'll do that coming back in so we just knock it out of the way.
Did we get our Georgia Credit Union one in?
No, so what we're going to do, he said we didn't have to do the first one because it was logged for the 4 o'clock hour.
Okay.
So we'll have to. So I'm going to just give them in the within the segment. We're not going to do it separately. I'm going to just update the scores.
All right, that works.
Just by using code HOMEFREE on the Walmart grocery app.
That's for all your groceries?
Oh, 34.20. We got a game.
Delivery. Veggies for weeknight dinner. Free delivery.
They hit Mon, and 3 different Alabama players, I think, touched it.
All right, pressure on the quarterback.
Home free to get free delivery all month.
It's like
Walmart.
1, 2, well, 2 different Alabama players touched it.
City Club Marietta has never been better with their brand new Tiff Eagle Bermuda Greens. City Club Marietta's Tiff Eagle Bermuda Greens are the same kind of grass that the PGA Tour plays on its various locations around the Southeast.
Third quarter, plenty of game left.
Added new GPS units on all golf carts to enhance your experience. Located just minutes from the Marietta Square. Book your tee time now at cityclubmarietta.com. That's cityclubmarietta.com. Some find the month of October
You're
scary.
doing fine.
Man, on my side, you're never going to find a better car buying experience anywhere. The best people, the best selection, and their Audis. And they're all backed by the Generalist Promise. Right now, you can lease a well-equipped 2019 Audi Q5. I'm driving one right now. For just $319 a month, this thing is beautiful. It includes Audi.
Gotta figure out what to do for dinner here.
Good call, Los. I need to text the wife to see what we're doing about dinner.
Home team, you ever kiss your wife like this?
Miss Terry?
On the cheek.
No,
you
I kiss
you
on
ever
the
kiss
lips.
on the cheek?
I kiss her on the cheek if I haven't brushed my teeth in the morning and she's up.
Well, Saban's getting ready for a game. You got to kiss her on the lips, right?
But, that's Miss Terry?
That's
But
Miss
I've also
Terry.
done that for when it's a business function for her.
Okay. Because you don't want to mess up the makeup?
I don't. Well, no, just the whole thing, like, because some people are uncomfortable with PDA.
And
it's a professional environment,
But
so you
it's
just
just a
come,
kiss
give
on
her a
the lips.
give her
It's
a
not
quick.
like a makeout.
No, it's just give her a quick kiss on the cheek and keep it moving.
Who was it that had the makeout? Which presidential nominee was it that had the makeout? Was it Bill with Hillary?
I remember that.
I doubt that.
Was it George with Laura?
She ain't into to men, and he's into
Oh,
other
no.
women.
He likes young
Yeah,
gals. He
Yeah, he
oh,
likes them
no.
young.
likes his Phillies a little young.
Oh, dear. Here we
Listen,
go.
Listen, they're.
I think you're thinking of Al Gore.
Like the president.
That's what it was,
It
Al
was,
Gore.
He kissed his wife.
He had like everybody said he was all stiff, so he and his wife did like a real awkward like.
Oh, boy.
gross.
What was her name? Kipper? Gipper?
Yeah.
Tipper.
Tipper.
So are you trying to tell me that you don't believe that there are people that actually will enter into some sort of relationship in the interest
No,
of power?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Because let me tell you, that's
Here
probably
we go.
that's what that thing has been.
Whether you're looking to entertain business partners or develop lifelong memories with your family, the Atlanta Braves have membership options.
How are you going to let Will Muschamp do that?
A-list and Infinity Club members receive
So,
Oh, no. Al Harrington raises $16 million funding for his cannabis business. All right.
All right, Al.
Oh.
Go
Oh,
get
no.
it.
Al. He was a good interview. Even when he got hurt, he would still help us out a little bit.
I wish I had a cannabis business.
Yeah.
My best interview ever. He played for the Pistons. He was in the Pistons massacre, the Detroit massacre.
Ben Wallace.
No, but then he played for the Pacers. Jermaine O'Neal.
Okay. He's a solid guy.
He was with the Heat at the time. He was injured, never played. But I just got to do a one-on-one because nobody else is talking to him. Whenever I go in the locker room, I always talk to the guy that nobody else is talking to because I always feel bad
Build
for
a good
them.
rapport.
I always feel bad for this
Jermaine
guy.
O'Neal gave me his headband after the All-Star game here in Atlanta.
Really?
We went to the locker room and we were finishing up, and he didn't want to clean out his locker, so he gave somebody something, and I was getting ready to leave, and he was like, you want this? And I was like, yeah.
Do you still
So he took
have
his
it?
headband off. I do have it.
Do you really?
I do have it. I did wash it. I did not leave it in its current state.
Do you use it to finish?
No, I don't dress up. We don't dress up much.
So
Tracy,
as to,
will you
so
wear
as-
the Jermaine O'Neal
I'll be
headband
Jermaine
tonight?
O'Neal and you be a cheerleader, baby.
now tonight, I want you to be Jermaine O'Neal.
Darling, there's a flagrant foul coming.
Central heating and air conditioning, maybe it's cold stuff is right around the corner. And I ask, is your furnace ready?
You're like Pacers, Jermaine O'Neal. You're real good.
So that was the same day that I looked down, home team. I was in the locker room,
Okay.
and I went like this.
Okay.
And I looked down below the equator.
Well, I mean, you're going to see naked guys.
He did that to King James.
Oh.
I saw the little prince.
Oh. The funniest story.
I was not impressed.
Sam Cassell.
Oh, my God. I have Sam Cassell stories.
Apparently, he's legendary.
No. Sam Cassell would do it on purpose.
He's like- he's
he
like
would,
Juan Uribe.
Like, okay, nobody's talking to Sam, whatever, and he would he'd shuffle his towel.
Yes.
It,
His business almost fell on the floor, and one of the girls said, "Oh my God!"
Oh my God! Yeah. He did that stuff in Dallas, and again, it became this running joke of let me get the room lightened up, let me do whatever by here, let me my grandfather clock fell out.
Do you remember it was you, me, Brian Finneran, and Perry played in the Hawks media tournament?
Yes.
Okay. And so we changed in the away locker rooms. And for the first time, if you needed to use the bathroom, you could go into the actual shower.
Okay.
We're not allowed in the shower
Right.
area. But you could go in the shower urinal area. So the urinals are much higher because they sit here is where they start.
Right.
And the sink is right here. So I walk in to go use the urinal, and I see Perry, and he's washing his hands like this.
That's funny.
I was like, Perry, no.
On the biggest college football station in the country, The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM.
Welcome back in to College Game Day here on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM. It's home team Brandon Lee, Carlos Medina, Brian Hoyt taking you up to 7 o'clock. Georgia Tech and Georgia fans, feel free to give us a call, 404-231-1680. We'll take a little time to look at our Georgia United Credit Union scoreboard as we look at some top 25 scores. Clemson all over Florida State. The bad news for Willie Taggart continues. Fourth quarter action, Clemson all over the Seminoles, 42-7. We have a Wisconsin defense that doesn't let up. They're all over Michigan State, 38-0. Alabama now in a little bit of a dogfight as they lead Texas A&M, 34-20.
Go Aggie.
Tua with 4 touchdown passes as they head to the fourth quarter. And as we told you earlier in the day, South Carolina knocks off UGA 20-17 in double overtime in Athens. Georgia Tech falls to Duke 41-23 in Durham. Did he have, and I'm starting to see on Twitter because I tweeted out earlier this day that Kirby Smart had his Mark Richt moment. And some people say, no, there have been more than that. And what I meant by saying that is there was always a moment in the season where no matter what the preseason hype was, no matter what the recruiting ranking was, no matter what the stats or the quarterback was doing, there was always one game that either derailed or put the season in jeopardy before it needed to be there, before you got to week 10, before you got to an Auburn game, before you got to the nuts and bolts of the last few weeks that could be crazy of college football. I think today that was Kirby Smart's moment. You've had a game where you've lost to LSU. You've had a game where you lost to Auburn. To me, that's when your defense let you down and got run all over. Today, your defense played well enough to win. Your defense had a chance to win in regulation, in the first overtime, and in the second overtime, and none of it translated to a win.
I don't know who would argue with you at this point that it was a Mark Richt moment. He did not – I shouldn't say he did not have those kids ready. Those kids weren't ready to play a football game at noon today. And when they finally decided they were ready to play, it was the fourth quarter and you were down 7, and they still didn't look like they were in it. Now, let me give you another Mark Richt moment. He botched the game multiple times at the end of the game, which is a Mark Richt kind of thing as well.
Okay.
If you want to go back to that 2012 SEC Championship, spiking the ball, not spiking the ball, whatever, his play calling at the end, and whether it was Kirby's play calling or just his decision-making overall, timeouts, calling plays when you could have kicked the field goal, everything else. Yes, it looked like a team from 2002 to 2015, not from what we've seen of Kirby Smart's team.
There was a level of sloppiness, a level of a lack of attention to detail, which has not been typical of what this program has been basically since 2017 moving forward, where they consistently put themselves in position to win ball games, make plays, and beat up on teams. I think the most important, beat up on teams that are not anywhere near as good as they are. South Carolina is not anywhere near as good as Georgia.
And don't take anything away from them. They played their...
No, they forced Georgia into 4 turnovers and forced them into constantly dealing with 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and Georgia not able to handle those third down opportunities. That is a credit to South Carolina. But if Georgia doesn't turn the ball over 4 times, they walk in this game. It doesn't even get anywhere near getting to be an overtime game. It's a 10-point win and a disappointing win.
And that part doesn't fall on Kirby. The 4 turnovers, that has nothing to do with Kirby Smart.
The game wasn't over, though, and you had a chance to win. That's on Kirby Smart to me.
That's the issue. It's the game management. And we've talked about Kirby, and he's got to become a better game manager. I have never worried about Kirby, specifically in the offseason when you're recruiting. That man is better at it than anybody else in this country, in my opinion. The times we play from the moment the ball is kicked off until the time the whistle blows at the end, I don't know if Kirby – we all know Kirby isn't the greatest guy at that. He keeps showing he's not learning from that, though, home team. And we're in year 4 of this coaching regime. You've got to get better at that. I can have an issue with you having timeout problems in your first year as a coach. I can't have it year 4. I can have issues with you calling a play that shouldn't have been called or not lining up for a field goal your first or second year. I can't have it year 4. You need to learn from this stuff. You're no longer a first-year head coach to me.
But this is why so many of the elite coaches struggle in one-score situations, because they don't deal with them very often. They're not ever sitting with 3 minutes left in the game, down by 7, and how do I manage this situation? Hey, it's a tie ball game. I just got the ball on the 40-yard line. I got 1 timeout in 40 seconds. What do I do here? Even though the rest of us are watching the game going, we should do this and do this and do this, and here's how it should go. these guys get lost in the fog of war. And that's what happens when you consistently beat up on teams, then suddenly have to play a game randomly once or twice a year.
Yeah, and that's where it's coming down to me, Hoyt. Get your thoughts. You're diehard Georgia fan. What are we getting from Kirby, from his coaching in the close games?
It's going to sound bad.
We know what we're getting when he's up 2 scores, 17 points, when he's covering 24 and 27-point spreads. We know the offense and the penalties are where he wants them to be. We know the big running plays and the defensive plays are there. In these close games that he's not winning, what are we getting from the sidelines? Because now we have had enough of a resume, even though it's early in his coaching career, to at least have a book that, hey, some of these decisions that he's making, especially what happened today, not getting the field goal attempt off in regulation with Rodrigo Blankenship ready to try to boot a game winner, I'm starting to think that when things get tight and things get close, the conservative play and the miscommunication starts to arise when Kirby has decisions he has to make.
There's a chance the game just moves too fast for him, and maybe that's the case, or he gets caught up at the end like that, but He almost seems like he's becoming a Dan Quinn to me. Like he can do all this stuff before the ball is ever snapped, and once the ball is snapped, hey, I hope my players can go out there and win it, which a lot of college football coaches, they succeed doing that.
That's what they do.
That's ultimately is I get the best players, and I'm going to beat you physically. I don't have to scheme and outbeat you that way. And unfortunately, when you find yourself in a game like this, you need coaching as well. If your players are not going to play up to the expectations that you have for them, well, then you better out-scheme somebody and out-coach somebody. And instead, not that Will Muschamp had a great coaching day himself, because he did not, but you played right into Will Muschamp's hands. You played par for par with him, and his players played better than yours.
It was middle of the third quarter before you really made an adjustment offensively for the fact that you weren't doing anything. You weren't generating enough offense. You weren't getting up and down the field.
Did they not think they had to? Like, explain it to me.
It felt like they just knew at some
we'll
point
eventually take care
the
of this.
offensive line was going to lean, and then DeAndre Swift was going to have a 40-yard touchdown run. It just felt like they were waiting for the big pop to come, and it never got going. And then on third downs, while they did okay on third downs, the third downs they didn't convert helped South Carolina with the momentum not swinging in Georgia's favor.
You can't wait as a coach, though. It's your job to put me in a better position.
I
We
would
can't
agree.
just sit back here and, okay, eventually we're going to take the lead.
See, South Carolina did not break physically and emotionally until the final drive of that fourth quarter, where you go take it 94 yards for the score and to tie that ball game. Then they got a break, and they were able to get their wheels back on. And Georgia has made a living, especially in the last 3 years, of once you break, you don't get it back together. Now we start pounding on you, and that's been the MO of this team this year. We're going to keep pushing you. Once you break, then the game's over with, and we can get whatever we want.
The three things that I have relied on more as a Georgia fan in the past 3 years. Jake Fromm, can we all agree on that?
I would agree.
Normally he's reliable, and that's what you expect out of him. That offensive line.
I would agree.
And Rodrigo Blankenship.
And all three.
All three did not come together, and you still had a chance. And your coach did not put you in the right position on that final drive in the fourth quarter. Whether Hot Rod makes it or not, I don't care. Give me an opportunity. And I know they were trying to get greedy and get him 5 extra yards. I need a kick. I need an opportunity at that point. Let your playmakers make a play. That's what he didn't give him today.
I think they were bothered in part because of two things. I thought Dan Orlovsky during the broadcast was okay. He was a dog in really high weeds. Like he was like, I mean, I just like he's just kind of guessing, shooting, and he starts bringing up, I bet he didn't do it because of the kick six. He was over there. I was like, no. The problem is, and it's very obvious, he'd already had one blocked. Anything you're going to kick from about 55 yards has to come out low. That's the low trajectory. And so I don't want to be the guy at home kicking a 55-yarder low that could potentially get blocked, and then that's what ends up beating me.
The FSU-Georgia Tech game is what I remember. Remember that block and they return it back?
Yeah, they return it back.
That's all you would have been thinking about.
It's a rarity, but I can sit back and say, you know what? Fine. 25-yard line. Your ball or my ball, and let's keep playing.
I didn't understand, and maybe we're all trying to figure it out together.
We are.
The formula. And then when you got to overtime, or when you're trying to, try to put the game away, certainly try to get a touchdown and hold them to a field goal or, whatever you want to get done, you were passing. Then you were passing once you got down inside the 20. Instead of trying to run your way and then have to pass on a third and short, you came out passing on first and second down. So I was a little bit confused at the play calling. So James Coley is going to go look at the film and see what's going on.
Is he?
There's good and there's bad. The good is, to your point, all those turnovers, all the miscues, the missed field goals, the blocked field goal, you were right there at the end. The bad of it is, if that is your worst, and that any of that could show up, even if it's 2 turnovers and 1 pick six and 1 blocked field goal. If you do that against Florida, if you do that against Auburn, I don't think you're losing by 3 points in double overtime. It could go a completely different way. We might get your behind chopped off and really pay a big price for playing sloppy football.
Here's my concern is you played one sloppy game every year since 2017 with Kirby Smart. You just happened to play it early this year. Now you've got a Florida team that's 6-0 going into tonight. You've got a Missouri team that's 4-1 going into today. You've got an Auburn team that's 5-1, and Texas A&M, who looks like they'll take their 3rd loss, but it's still a top 25 and a good team. You've got to run that gauntlet with perfection. You cannot have a single slip up. And the fact that Jake Fromm just he looked spectacular up until this week. Completion percentage, efficiency. PFF had him ranked as the most efficient over Jalen, over Tua, over Joe, over everybody. They had him ranked on efficiency higher than anybody else. But to look like that you can't happen, and it certainly can't happen again if you want to A, get to the Benz, and B, get into a playoff game.
Last biggie for the SEC and for college football tonight, one of the big ones, LSU and Florida. I'm interested to see if the Gator defense can do something. Can they get a couple of turnovers? Can they get a sack fumble on Joe Burrow? Can they slow down the LSU offensive machine? Because the one thing I'm seeing, Joe Burrow is standing in the pocket, and he is delivering. Sometimes it looks to me like he's holding it a little too long, but that's good pass protection. Can they be disruptive? Can they find a way to get their defense in position to set up the offense to beat LSU? Or is LSU going to really put some extra momentum in their sails and get a lot of extra credit if they go in and put a big number up on Florida?
It's weird that if I told you the best 2 offenses in the country are Oklahoma, no surprise, you'd be like, all right, cool,
Yep.
and
Sure.
LSU. You'd be like, what?
They
What
must be-
happened?
Can't be.
They must be running for 400 yards a game.
It's like, no, they're just putting the ball in the air and they're beating up on people, and that is what they're doing in order to get it done. That's going to be the fascinating aspect about tonight. It's all going to come down to Florida. How elite, how legit is that defense? Because, again, if you just take away the cupcake games, it's an 18-point-per-game defense, which is fine. That's great. But that does not put you among the elites in the game. I went through some of this in a front office Los over on Friday. So last year, Florida ended up surrendering, I think it was like a total of 260 points. Well, if you go back to the last decade, with the exception of 2016 when that Florida team quit, 4-7, didn't have anything about it, that was the most points they've given up in the decade.
Okay.
So you're telling me that your 2018 season giving up this many points means we're elite. No, you're not even playing to a typical Florida standard at that point. But everybody is celebrating Todd Grantham and Dan Mullen. I think because everybody wants Florida to be elite. Everybody wants Florida to be a team that can compete with Georgia. I think tonight we're going to see the difference in an elite LSU team and a good Florida team.
You can make Bo Nix look confused. You can do that because he's a true freshman. To do it to Joe Burrow is going to be something different, especially in Baton Rouge. Now, if you can do that, no offense, you knock off Auburn and then LSU back-to-back weeks, you should be the number one team in the country. And I truly believe that. But it's going to be a lot to do that.
All right, when we get back, this has been one of the toughest weeks for Atlanta sports fans in a while.
The Falcons will save us,
let's
right?
Get it out. Coming up next here on College Game Day, live from Sports and Social. Home team, Carlos Medina and Brian Hoyt here on The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM.
Atlanta's 20.
Keith, out time?
Is that good?
Yeah, this is going to be a really long break.
Okay.
What's our out time?
Live every Monday after the game.
It's Matt Ryan, and I'm live with the front row every week after the game, only on Atlanta's 26.
I didn't even see what he said.
Keith, do you have the out time?
No, I didn't see what home team wrote.
Oh, I thought you were looking at it. My bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I saw it.
I can't read and do it at the same time.
I have horrible handwriting.
I can barely read.
55-20? All right, I'll be out at 55-20.
Keith, our clock says 39, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, now 6:40.
40?
Yep. Were we on with you?
I got 39-38 here.
All right, we're a little bit ahead.
41,
That's fine.
42, 43, 44, 45, 46.
All right.
J. Chad showed me this atomic clock that he uses.
Georgia's own credit union.
Hi,
I was watching TV the other day, and I saw one of those awful TV lawyers bragging about receiving over 2 million phone calls of potential clients. If you were injured in an accident, why would you want your call mixed in with 2 million others? For me, I don't want to get lost in the shuffle of a big TV advertising law firm. I want personal attention. That's why I want Bruce Hagen. He's a Georgia super lawyer, 15 consecutive years, and he will give you that great personal service. For your personal injury case, get in touch with Bruce Hagen at hagen-law.com or call him at 404-522-7553.
Tiz, what's your clock say?
This is the atomic clock. The atomic clock says 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
All right, I'm going to watch it real quick and line this one up.
33. J-Chad showed me that. He said something that they have to do for the Skyview. Yeah, so he gave me this app, and it actually is pretty cool. It uses, I think, 4 different atomic clocks around the country.
Is that what those 4 lines
are?
So
these clouds are the different clocks, and it shows you how much off they are today. So there's one that's, millionth of a second off.
Don't miss this crucial ACC matchup live on the Fan.
10, 11, 12. There we go.
All right, we're straight.
We're in sync.
All right, it would have been nice if Derek did that, but whatever.
My man's working. He's going to keep audio and video. He is.
Derek, what's the score? 47.
Oh, they scored again? So they're going to put up 55 points today. See,
Which is what you
that's
gotta
what you're
do.
supposed to do. That's on the road, and they're on the road, too. That's what you're supposed to do. God, that was such a bad loss.
Oh, now you're on us. The mics go off. Now he's on us. He wants to be Mr. Optimist when he's.
I mean, I'm just trying to look at taking the emotion out of it. You haven't. You can still do what you got to do. It's just.
You lost your talking point to Joe, by the way.
As far as
this game's on Jake Fromm.
Jake Fromm. Oh, his sister. He called me. I was screaming on the way over here because Friday I went on this rant before we went to the bet knots. I was like, I bet not see DeAndre Swift in the fourth quarter. They should be up 4 scores. And Joe was like, well, they could keep it close. They're not keeping it close. And Joe's sister graduated from South Carolina. So she said she was going to get in my stuff. So after they lost today, I said, your sister should be calling in to cuss me out first. And he started laughing and said, you sent a text. And 3 minutes later, she called and said, I'm calling home team to get on him. So
experts by specialty wrote the book on what it takes to sell successfully. And third, well, your part's easy. Since Duffy does it all, you get to sit back, relax, and count all that extra money that you worked for in the first place, because money matters.
Do you know what today is the 22nd anniversary of?
Up in my shit, 200 chicks.
Is that Braves and Marlins?
That is the Eric Gregg game.
Skedaddle with the cattle prods. Too many men,
That's
too
awful.
many boys, too many misters.
Major
not
League
enough
Baseball
sisters.
should be offended and ashamed.
Not enough ladies, too many men.
Well, he died, so he got it in the
He
end.
didn't have diabetes or something?
Yeah, like they were going to either chop a leg off or let him die. And he was like, give me the death.
Blended smooth sipping Irish whiskey made exactly for these great moments. When it's game time, it's Tully time.
Levon Hernandez just has a little pillow at his grave and just lays right next to it.
Did Levon get 2 rings or 1?
Got 2.
I don't know if he was.
Did he ever get one with the Yankees? He did?
So
Derek
then he
said
does have
did.
2.
That motherfucker.
He pitched against the Braves in 1996, didn't he?
You're not thinking of El Duque? No, he was
Oh,
with the
I'm
Marlins
thinking
in
that. I'm thinking
97.
the wrong way, yeah.
He's 97 Marlin.
Yeah, Bama had a block punt TD. That's how they went up so big.
Special teams. And then the jackass shanked the game winner. So you got even a third. You had like a 10th life today, and you still couldn't beat the Bums.
Georgia had 0 first downs in overtime. 0.
Third down, interception. Yeah.
Can I say something? No homo home team?
Sure.
You have very nice eyelashes.
You know, I got a lot of credit for that over the years. I can't see them, but a lot of women comment. Apparently, my eyelashes, women would like to not
You
have to pay for them.
Very nice eyelashes.
I've got the hair gene. So
you have hair, but you shave.
So I got this spot on my head where it stopped growing, and it did it 2 years ago, and then it came back. like a month later.
Jesus.
So it came back, and my barber, I said, well, am I balding? My barber said, no, you're not balding because there would be no hair follicles. So I went to the dermatologist Monday, and she said no. And she said, well, when's the last time you had your hair cut? And I said, Saturday. This was like Monday. And I had like the fuzz like this. I just got my hair cut Thursday.
But did you go in and get
my
your hair
grows
cut?
back quickly.
You don't do it yourself?
No, I don't do it myself.
Really?
It's actually harder to keep a bald head than you would think, unless you use like a razor.
Domino and Grant do it themselves.
Yeah, if you
Nick
do a
does it
razor in
himself.
the shower, but I have sensitive skin, so if you use the clippers, you still have to cut it like a haircut because you could have this. It's a little bit high, this is a little bit low, and you look like a sick kid or something.
Wow.
I want to see you go kid and play.
You know what? I'll bring in my high school picture. I had a box. I had to grow out the fro when I used to pick my hair. I asked Tracy if I could do what like some of these old school cats are doing now, where they have, it's like the natural, it's like a box, but they don't comb it, and it's kind of fuzzy on the top, but they skin the sides. Chris Webber has it.
How high up does it go?
It's not like we did in the 90s, but it's there.
But then up here, it's kind of like a party on top and business on the side.
I was like, let me try that. She was like, how about you don't? I was like, all right.
If I told you one home renovation purchase could help you with all those things,
That's kind of a bummer.
What could you do with your hair?
Time's up.
There's not much. You know what my hair is good for? A good bowl cut. I'm waiting for that bitch to come back in style.
And he's going to look like every frat kid at Ole Miss.
That, and I can do Thomas Dimitrov hair.
Okay.
I can do the messy.
Kind of the frizzy.
Yeah, that's about it. Carlos can do just about anything with that
I can
hair.
do
He's got a little fade.
Yeah, I can do because it'll grow up and crazy.
Okay.
And it'll get very curly too. So like if I let it go really high, it could be like Kramer.
I was just about to call it the Kramer.
It
That's
could.
exactly what that
It's
is.
exactly what would happen. Or I'd have to use a lot of product and everything else like that for it to stay where it doesn't get crazy curly fuzzy, like where it just like it doesn't look unkept. Looks like I don't wash it.
So I could grow it, and I could do the waves. I can have like the Joe Johnson waves, but that takes a lot of work.
That's
Because
the
you have
thing.
to
I
put a
don't wanna do the
wave
work.
cap on and brush it all the time. Put the wave cap back on. Put your grease on.
I don't understand how that works. You're gonna have to explain that to me.
Okay.
So the wave cap goes on, and you just leave it on like
Well,
overnight?
some people. I grew up in a conservative family, so you don't wear that out of the house. So if you see, the guys at the gas station with the white beater on, they're just trying to. You're just going to the gas station, but
it's like mama rolling up in curls.
when you get home, you can put the do-rag on, or you can put it on and put a hat on. And if you pull your
I've
hat down,
seen that,
sometimes
yeah.
people won't know. So sometimes if you see the guys in the NFL, if they take their helmets off and
I
they
think I
have
got
something over their heads, it's not for style. What they're doing, they probably have waves, and if the grease gets in their eyes while they're playing, they won't be able to see. So they put the wave cap on while they're playing.
Holds the grease in?
So the grease won't get in their eyes.
Oh.
See? The more you talk to people, the more you learn.
That's why I always ask. People say I'm racist. I'm not. I'm inquisitive.
There are no stupid questions if you truly don't know the answer.
I don't know any answer.
Actually, he doesn't know the difference in prejudice or racist. It's
I don't.
not racist.
Or all
he
prejudice.
just doesn't know anything.
Or
he's got
ignorant.
ignorance and
I'm
prejudice.
ignorant. How about that? I'm just ignorant.
Okay.
And so I ask questions.
But he doesn't wish to remain so.
No, and so I ask the questions.
I think you'll be a better man for it.
We're in a society where people are so afraid to ask the questions because maybe it'll come off this. I just ask.
Well, the problem is nobody asks anything. We're in a society where you get with
Correct.
people who agree with you, and then you just stay with your tribe.
No.
We need to step out.
I want to learn.
That's me. I'm going to ask Snake because I asked him about, he was making a comment about being at synagogue. And I said, I need you to explain to me Monday, break down synagogue for me because I didn't know, if you invite me to church, I can just go to your church and join your church, become a member. You come to my church.
Well, but the understanding of the high holy days within the Jewish religion, it's a different deal.
Correct.
Which is, I also messed with Matt by saying like, oh, y'all kept Shiva. It's Shiva. And the idea is it's a traditional of when somebody passes, you sit and you receive everybody for several days.
Okay.
And it's a family time.
You
but
sit?
Yes, you sit in designated chairs. And these are the family chairs. And like you stay within the home. for a designated amount of time, and everyone brings you food and does whatever, that's being called keeping Shiba. But I call it Shiba because it makes Matt crazy.
Home
I'm like,
team.
oh, we'll keep Shiba.
When you and Tracy sit down for dinner, do you have a table?
We eat at the dinner table, rarely at home. If we do, it's breakfast. So, like, on the weekends, we'll eat breakfast. But typically, like, if we sleep in late or we're watching the game like today, she went and got something from Chick-fil-A, so we sat in the den, put up the table trays, and we're watching TV, watching the games.
Do you have a place on your couch where you sit and
Yes,
Tracy
typically
sits?
I sit in the same spot.
Okay.
She sits in her spot, and I sit on my spot.
Do you ever sit in her spot when she's not there, though?
I will.
Put on her clothing?
I haven't done that yet.
Okay. Lipstick?
Certainly haven't done that.
You like get on your knees, you tie a rope to the doorknob, and
you just
put it
tuck
around
it.
your neck, and just like maybe see how long it takes yourself. Have to bite down on the lemon or the lime to save yourself.
Goodness gracious.
It brings
Me, oh
you
my.
back. It brings you back.
It brings you back.
Welcome back in to College Game Day live from Sports and Social here in the Battery, Atlanta. Home team branded leak from the Sports X. If you haven't checked out the Sports X, it's 106.3 and 103.7 FM. We are live from Cobb County. I get to work with Joe Hamilton, the College Football Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion.
Runner-up.
All-time leading passer at Georgia Tech Monday through Friday. Tug Coward.
Davey O'Brien Award winner.
And an All-American Los. Tug Coward and Hudson Mason, former UGA quarterback, noon to 3, and then A to Z with Mark Zeno, 3 to 6 on the Sports X. Download the Sports X app and the 680 The Fan app. Those are free in the Google Play and the iTunes stores.
Let me put this in perspective. The last time we lost to South Carolina, Hudson was on the team.
Yeah, Hudson did it.
There you go.
Man,
So-
there's so many things
don't blame him. Don't do that.
Oh no, there's so many things that we do blame Hudson for.
Yeah, like not handing the ball to Todd Gurley and instead getting an intentional grounding
we're,
call.
We're like, Hudson, what were you thinking? And he's like, what are you talking about?
Now it's time to take a look at our Georgia United Credit Union scoreboard as we look around some games coming into the fourth quarter. Clemson on top of Florida State now 45-7. Poor Florida State fans. Alabama getting a special teams touchdown. They now lead Texas A&M 47-28. Baylor on top of Texas Tech 17-13. Earlier today, Duke beat Georgia Tech 41-23. And Georgia, they fell at home to South Carolina in double overtime 20-17. And speaking of that loss,
awesome.
It's been a tough week here in the A. We've seen a lot of these guys, but when you look at what we've been through as a collective fan base,
run it down, home
the
team.
last 7 days, Falcons give up 53 points. Embarrassing.
That's not good.
The Braves exit the playoffs, giving up 10 runs in the first inning in Game 5 of the NLDS.
That's a Major League Baseball playoff record for an inning.
Nobody has ever
The
seen
first
that
inning.
before. Since the 1800s, they've been playing baseball, and that has not happened. The Jackets just gave up 50 or 41, and they lost. And then the Dogs gave up 4 turnovers, and they lost. It has been a tough week for the Atlanta sports fan base this week in October.
So what do we do? Move?
No, we
okay.
we use it as strength,
No, we don't.
and you move on.
Home team, we've got enough strength.
There's no curses. There's just dumb decisions.
I don't believe in curses either. It's just
They're
a lack
dumb,
of execution.
Dumb decisions that you make, and we saw plenty of them. No one's going to be able to tell you about the Georgia game and say, well, it's because Atlanta or the region is cursed. I'm like, no, it's because you made this many dumb decisions. The same thing with the Atlanta Braves. The reason why you're not playing yesterday and then again today is because your 7th, 8th, and 9th innings in St. Louis when you had every opportunity to win.
Bases loaded.
You did
2
not
outs.
get
Freddie
a base hit.
Freeman up in the 8th of Game 4.
Well, how about Acuna on
Fly
third
out.
with nobody out?
Nobody out.
And you can't score. Guess what? You bring Game 5 into play, and what happens, happens.
We want you to have a good time, and you can have one December 7th. There's a game going on in the Bins.
I better be
a
there.
championship game, and we have 2 tickets to the championship game, and we have transportation to 680 The Fans Championship Tailgate Party. All you have to do to register for this conference championship game day experience is go to 680thefan.com/championship. Yo, you also get a chance to get a VIP table here at Sports and Social for the conference championship with a $2,000 tab.
I've done it twice.
Do it.
The $2,000 tab?
But without the $2,000 tab, let me tell you, It was awesome both times. If anybody wants to say the next time around, hey, we'll give you a $2,000 tab, just know that it's worth winning. It's completely awesome here.
Yeah, and even your buddies who can't go in the game with you,
come on out.
You could have them come out to Sports and Social, and then you can leave and go to the game.
You have the best scenario of saying, guys, listen, we're not going to be able to make it to this game, but I have the next best place, and it's going to be loud and crazy, and it's paid for.
You don't have to do anything but show up. Go to 680thefan.com/championship. All right, one more big game on the board. Quickly before we get out of here, guys, who do you like, Florida or LSU?
Baton Rouge. I believe in LSU at night. I think that's going to be a very tough environment. Florida, I think if they can dirty up the game, that's what they have to do to win these sort of things. But I'm with LSU.
I don't see how Florida scores against LSU, and I don't see how they keep up with LSU's offense.
All right, and that'll do it. I'm taking LSU as well. We'll see
easy.
you next week. Make sure you keep your station locked tomorrow. 680 The Fan will be all over NFL coverage. For Hoyt, for the great Los Medina, and for the great Keith Ippolito and Derek Thomas.
I'm not great.
You are great. You're a great fan and a great man and a great daddy. We'll see you next week here on The Fan, 680, 93.7 FM.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, I'm going to run this sheet over.
I got a copy here, home team.
Okay, so I got all four.
Okay, appreciate it, man.
Okay, thank you.
I have been spreading the good news for over a decade now of how awesome my real estate expert Rhonda Duffy and Duffy Realty is at selling homes. Rhonda sold 3 of my homes and saved me nearly $35,000. And that's take home. That's cash in my pocket. What is that, $50,000 pre-tax income? Thank you, Rhonda. And the way Rhonda has done this year after year is simple. Duffy flexibility. The money you